Hello, everybody. Welcome, Shauner, and welcome, Simul G, for the first time on Tear Off Your Skin. I guess I didn't get the warning. I missed my cue. Should I play it? I'll play it, just so
Yeah,
people
do it,
are
do it.
warned and give it time for people to jump in.
Warning. This stream is for entertainment purposes. The opinions expressed by the participants might be exaggerated for comedic effect. Harsh language can be used. Thought-provoking or controversial topics may be discussed.
All right, there. Everybody, you've been warned. Hello, Xaris. Nice seeing you. I hope
You've
you're
been
enjoying your
warned.
trip.
You've been warned. Oh man.
So, Simul G, you want to talk about horror, but you also wanted to touch about the topic before the show don't tell as a reaction to the short video, which I decided I'm gonna call Uncovered Flesh, since they're condensed version of the Tear Off Your Skin
Yeah.
that I did on Monday.
I listened to because a month ago almost, you and Shauner discussed the second person problem. The
Yep.
second person, like the you. Yeah,
Yes.
and Max, you said, I say you sometimes as an habit, and blah blah blah.
We all did the you thing.
We all do it. We all do it some way or another. Some are worse, and that's funny because he did a 20-minute or so video about like the tiers. So this is the very worst: the red ones and the yellow ones and the green ones. And I was like,
there was some contention.
yeah, because there was a really cool comment by Dice Tales.
Yeah.
Dice Tales came out and says, sometimes it's okay to say you because if there is a tentacle on your back, and I really appreciate the thumbnail today with the tentacle. So if there's a tentacle on your back, you should be allowed to say you feel a tentacle on your back.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, this whole conversation, this whole topic is about the show don't tell principle.
Mhm.
And show don't tell is a whole idea that we talk so much, but it's so obscure and hard to define. How do we do that? How do we
Practice.
practice show don't tell? It is because we want to get better. That's the whole idea. I think one of those things that are behind this conversation at Tear Off Your Skin and the 40 crowd is the idea of we're trying to get better, we're trying to practice, we try to improve at getting that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And show don't tell is kind of like an art because it's not a science. It's not something that is universally teachable. You, maybe Shauner has a way to do it. You, Max, maybe has another way to do it. And I have probably another way to show don't tell. But one thing that seems to comes into play all the time is that the you as a subject in a sentence, for example, is not good for that. And that we should go around it somehow and maybe not doing it. And then it kind of leads to the idea of horror. So I wanted to start just by mentioning a couple ideas about that. For example, yeah, go ahead.
Because like show don't tell already can be confusing because we show through words still, right? Because we just like say what's happening, right? It's already like we're telling you what is, right? And like the answer I gave to the oh, you feel a tentacle on your back, I can say, you can just say there's a tentacle on your back, or a tentacle is landing on your back, or whatever, right? Yes, Shauner?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because your back is turned. So how do you know it's a tentacle?
Yeah.
You say
that's a good point too. You can
just a psychic thing in your mind projecting in your head what's behind you. But I would say something
wet
touches you. Something touches you from behind. The character turns around to look. There's a tentacle disappearing in the darkness. Something like that.
Listen, for me,
you don't say you, and you don't say see, you don't say feel, you don't say think.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
But
there's another. There is a thought experiment that I came up with listening to you guys. because I listened to that conversation maybe twice, so that's a lot. So
Yeah, for those long
yeah,
conversations.
for most viewers, that's a lot. And so one thing that you guys talk about is playing with the words, not saying any type of words, and you think, you see, you feel, you all those use. And I was like, okay, let's talk about horror. Let's say you get in, you go into a haunted house, and then you get into a room, and then there's a ghost in the corner of the room. Okay, so you can go into as a GM and say, you enter the room, and you don't say you just say, there's a ghost in the corner.
Yeah.
Or you can go, you enter the room, and you say, there is in the corner. The room is cold. It's colder than the other room. And there is a kind of like shadowy figure moving in the corner of the room. Now wait a second, because the shadowy figure, you don't know if it's a ghost. Because I don't say a ghost. I am talking about a shadowy figure. So it's the idea of show don't tell, right?
Yeah. But I would advise, like, what the only thing I'll be worried about in that case is the kind of seems like, right?
Sort of.
I also like
maybe,
to avoid those kind of like
like.
uncertain term. Like, say there is what there is, right? You can say there's a shadow in the corner. There's a shadowy figure in the corner, a shape that moves.
I used to say kind of like. It's kind of like.
I know kind of like is the worst. So but how do you know? Because if you say the concept, if you say there is a ghost in the corner, nobody sees a ghost the same way. Some people see ghosts as
their imagination is going to be different. Each player will have a different vision.
Yeah, but that's a problem.
Don't show a picture. Don't show a picture after you say there's a ghost.
But if there's 5 players seeing 5 different things, Sean, that's a problem.
You can say there's a presence. You can say you can be vague. You can say there's movement. You can say there's different way you can say it. It's just like those kind of like, look like, seems as, right? It's just like, it's like, for me, it's not big sin. It's not something like, oh, dare you do that? I'm gonna throw you a stone, right? That's not my reaction to that. It's just like a little inelegant, right? There are words that can be done away with, and it's just something to work over time, right? It's not something like, well, you better whip yourself 20 times every time you say seems like, right? That's not what I'm talking about, right? Just like, but be conscious of that. When you listen to yourself, you say, oh, you know what, I say that a lot. Like, we all have those like feeling word, and obviously we're making stuff as we speak, so sometimes we need this extra fraction of a second to think, right? But we all do that, like, oh, I'm gonna it's like, or we all have those filler word that are and just in language in general, better avoided.
MLG, remember when you ran the Traveler campaign? We're on the ship. Most of that campaign, we're inside of a ship. You don't describe the ship all that much, like the aesthetics, what the walls or the carpet or the ceilings look like, or if it's just steel corridors. You just describe the locations of things on the ship. And each player, I bet you each player in that game had their own imagination of what the ship actually looked like.
You're right. You're right. Now that comes down to the idea of, okay, so let's say you, as a GM, you want to create horror.
Yep.
And so you want to incite fear. Now, or if it's not fear, because we can have a different definition of horror. Some people as horror as disgust. Disgust.
We were just talking before you joined the pre-show. We are just talking about that with Shauner and saying, we need to discuss that in the stream. What is horror, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about
let's try to define it. Yeah, let's try to define it.
Are they having horror? Are they?
I use unreliable narration and I use uncanny valley when describing something.
And uncanny valley is huge for horror. It's the idea of that. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, what is that? I don't understand.
Like the director's cut of Exorcist,
technically
the girl's
uncanny.
going up and down the stairs and she's like crawling like a spider and her head's on backwards. Just describe that as a beginning. That freaks
Yeah.
out players.
Yeah. But
I
it's
don't do
also like,
jump scares though.
let me, before we go on the subject, let me say hi to some people in chat, so they don't feel too ignored. Doodle Squatch, hello. When do I get my skin back? You're supposed to put it back on after the show. I should have like a closing video to instruct people of that. You just don't walk around all week
Yeah, go to
round
Walmart
without your skin.
after
It's
the
like,
stream.
yeah, you take it off so we can figure out some stuff, and then you put it back on. Back to where I see. Hello, Nicolas. Yeah, there's still like we're haven't resolved this topic yet. And I'm actually getting ready to run somewhat of a horror game with the guys at some point. We're still working on the date. Yeah. Understanding the peril of you is the first seal you gotta break in order to ascend. At least understanding the hello, Zan. Yeah. And people like, did I create horror and incite fear in our first Baratroma session? I haven't watched. I haven't watched much YouTube yet, and especially not lately. Especially not much RPG YouTube. To be honest, I've been like, it's summer, right? I tried to spend some time outside. Yeah. So this horror thing. First of all, should you try to scare the player, or should you try to scare the character, and then through their character, the player is going to be scared?
That's a good question.
Well, it's all done. You're in character, right, the whole time.
Hopefully, yes.
Because I don't think you're gonna scare anyone through a screen or around the table. It's not. I don't. I think it's very like a make believe idea. I think that horror and RPG in this hobby is not the same as horror in cinema, like watching a horror movie, and it's not the same as horror in real life. Horror in real life, some people can live a whole life without seeing it.
Yeah.
Because horror in real life is so hard. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that criminal do. You get a home invasion. This is horror. You get you have a murder in front of you. This is horror.
Yeah.
But but you don't. So we don't go through that in real life. So we have cinema, we have books, and we have RPG. We have video games. If you play, I saw you play a horror game recently on your channel.
Yeah,
You
Fear
have
and Hunger.
yeah. You have Silent
Yeah.
Hill back in the days that was very
Yeah.
horror. So, that experience is different. And so horror and RPG, when I think in horror and RPG, I think about Dread. Have you guys played Dread? The
I've never played
Jenga,
Dread,
the Jenga
but I know,
tower.
yeah, I know about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's like you're playing Dread. For me, Dread is like more like a party game, right? You're not in character when you do that, right? You're just like you're creating tension for sure, and you kind of mimic the tension that a character should be under. But it's kind of like, it's kind of when I was like playing Fear and Hunger. One of the things I was complaining about is like the game was making you scared with this like dissonant music and the sound that would jab. And it's like, they're cheap trick, right? And you get desensitized to that very quick. So I don't know.
Are you trying to scare the players, or are you just narrating something that's creepy? It puts something in their head, and then the player starts to feel scared. Maybe
because if you want to go like just scaring the player, right? Can I just like start like talking slow, like lightly, like very quiet, dim the light, and then all of a sudden like I flash a light and I scream loud, and then everybody go because they make that'll be cheap trick, right? But then like, oh, you gave some emotion, and then everybody laugh because you got this release of tension.
You can do that
if
in
you do
character
that
as an NPC, scream out.
You can, but if I do that as a GM, right, that's not like an in character horror, and that's what I'm interested
That's just
to look for
storytelling.
Because I believe when you're in character, the ultimate goal is to have this emotional alignment with your character, right? Obviously, there's a damper because we know we're playing a game, but if your character is excited, if your character is like happy, or if your character is scared, or like that, you should feel some of that emotion in you.
Well, some
and
players
I
are
want to get
afraid
that
of
with horror.
spiders. And
Yeah.
if you just mention spiders crawling around, that weirds out some players already. But if I guess the trick would be to describe the boogeyman in the room without saying, "Oh, there's a boogeyman in the room." Let their imagination take over.
That come down to the you problem.
Yeah.
Because if you say, you see the boogeyman or you see a
Well,
ghost,
if you watch, 99% of the Call of Cthulhu games on YouTube, they always say, "You see this, you feel this, you think this, you know this, you saw this."
that's interesting because that's one of the thing. I am in a Cthulhu game right now, and there is
Hmm.
some you. There's a little bit of you, not all the time, but sometimes. And when I was younger, when I was a little bit less, I don't know, experienced in the hobby,
When you were a
I was
casual gamer,
very against the you. I was, don't tell me what I feel, don't tell me what I think, don't tell me what I know. I was
Yeah.
very against that, and still
Which those are
today.
pretty much the one I put in the red, right?
Yeah, and no, you put the no in the yellow, but it doesn't matter. The worst, the
Oh yeah.
worst, the worst is you enter the room and you see a
Yeah.
man that you've seen before, and this man, and makes you feel that way, and then and this, and we know this is the worst, and you discussed that already. It's the idea that the GM, because the structure is logical, if the GM wants you to, if the GM wants the character to know something or to feel a certain way, it's because he prepared something
Yes.
that is for that reason. So he wants you to see something a certain way. He wants you to
yeah,
feel the
exactly.
certain way. It's because he
That's
prepared something. He wants you to get into the groove of the plot.
that's the tone. That's the tone that you
Yeah,
agree on before you start a game, or
exactly.
the
So
pacing. Is it a
that's
slow burn?
yeah, exactly. And this is the stuff that in these conversations we don't want to
And
hear. We don't want to
your
see.
contract will say, can
Yeah.
I take your player agency away for a bit, for a time?
Exactly. Now, horror is a genre in this hobby that is tricky because if you want to incite fear, you kind of have to lose control on the character a little bit. That's the idea of Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu
Yep.
has that idea with the insanity and the uneasiness of I can't control my character for a certain while.
So what do you do? What do
I'll,
you take over the player character when they're temporarily insane, or do you
Me,
just remove
me,
them and they're out of the
I
game?
That's a good question, Sean. I have this opportunity because I played recently in a game where I lost my check. I failed my check, and so I lost kind of like the control of my character for a bit. And I listened to the GM telling me how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes there's a
So
chart that you roll on to see what your character does.
in Call of Cthulhu, yes, there is sometimes. Sometimes there's not, depending on the
Sometimes you
situation.
hope for the best. Well, I don't have my character anymore. Don't kill me
Uh,
while I'm out of control.
exactly, but the thing is that this is Call of Cthulhu because it's a Lovecraftian type of horror. It's not a zombie
Yeah,
apocalypse type of horror, right? It's not the same thing.
right.
So I lose myself in that magical, fantastic situation, weird stuff, and you have to trust. It's a trust. So I think horror in RPG demand trust between the GM and the player. If you don't trust
oh,
your
Yeah,
GM, if you don't trust your GM, you're not gonna let go. If you don't let
all
go,
yeah.
all
I
role
wouldn't even
playing
be in the game.
experience require trust. I would say,
definitely.
like, trust
Oh
is
yeah,
huge.
definitely. But
But
horror in particular.
maybe, but like I'll posit you that, like, because like it's true, and we talked about that before, that horror is a lot about horror is about being like not in control, about not having any power, about like being disenfranchised a lot, right? So there's this agency stuff like that, but it's always make the distinction between like taking away player agency or taking away character agency, right? The world sometimes take away your agency. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Sometimes you're just like victim of the environment. And for me, that those are very different. That's not the GM taking away controlling the character of the player. That's like basically like the world, your character's in panic and stuff like that, right? So there's a different thing like that, and one can just be with a good role player. You can trust him, right? That he's gonna take care of that, right? And he's gonna be in control of his character, not being in control of himself. And I think that's a more interesting way to do it.
Here, check the
But
chat real quick.
it does require a lot of trust. Yes, there's one specifically you want me to highlight.
I don't know, just last time we got too far behind in chat.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. All right. Space Roadie says thank to hello Space Roadie, by the way, saying to Nicolas Carmago, tell me my cell phone is ringing without using you. It's not worth the effort. Oh, they're talking about that.
Your phone is ringing.
Well, if you say your cell phone is ringing, you're not using you as the subject of the sentence. The subject of the sentence is your cell phone.
You
which
can
is
say
not.
your hand just got chopped off.
Yeah.
You can say what happens to you.
So it's not like not
got
using
shot.
you, like it's not using you as the subject of the sentence. That's the big distinction that we make. So your cell phone is ringing. That's fair.
You've been shot.
Don't say you hear your cell phone ringing, right? Because you can just say your cell phone is ringing. I think the you hear are nothing. And they're talking among themselves. The chat. I'm trying to skip a. If you try to scare a player, you start moving away from a. If you try to scare the player, you start to moving away from role play and move toward campfire story. Exactly. That was my example. Like I was saying, like, oh, if I just dim the light and talk slowly, and then I started bam, and then like everybody like jump, and then we all laugh.
If you want to tell a scary story, just tell a scary story. What's the role play session for?
Yeah. There you go. Nicolas
share
already
ghost
answered
stories.
that. The idea is avoiding controlling the player. You feel the phone buzzing. You can replace by your phone buzzes. Yeah. Distinction without a difference. If you look the video that I posted on Monday, I talk about the difference there. Like if you say you feel your phone buzzing, like if you just say that your phone buzzes, the player can decide if his character feel it or not. You can delay like the fact that like, oh wait, my phone is buzzing, right? And you can react like with a delay. You can decide to spend another round, right, before reacting. If the GM say you feel your phone buzzing, well then that's it. Now you have to react now, right? You cannot decide to ignore it or say like, oh, I didn't feel it, right? Stimuli happen all the time that we ignore, that we don't feel. So
yeah, one of the characters can say, I've been trying to call you, and the guy says, I ignored it.
I didn't like. I fucking miss call all the time because I don't feel my phone because
I'm busy.
I'm busy. I'm doing something else. So I'm wearing those like loose clothing where the phone doesn't really touch me.
The girl has her phone between her breasts and she forgot she put it there and it starts vibrating.
Yeah. Woo-hoo.
She's like, excuse me, I have an important call.
Yeah. Troutnam is this. Hello, and thank you for the sub, by the way. Horror is a weird one. I'm not sure you can achieve horror directly by yourself. Without the player buying in, you're not going to be able to do a jump scare.
Okay,
I want to talk about a jump scare. Yeah.
Jump scares would be pictures that
I don't think horror is about jump scares. I don't think horror is about jump scare. Jump scare is doable via cinema and video game with music combined with design and combined with sound effect kind of thing.
And they're very cheap.
And they're very cheap. It's not horror. It's
not like the real horror. Yeah,
exactly. Horror needs to be uneasy. It needs to be hard.
Yes.
It
has to be a slow burn.
So yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Because then your patients are ready for anything you show next.
Good horror come from within, right? You scare yourself by like anticipation, by right, like those jump scare. That's horror from like it's something that scares you from outside, right? It's like you're watching the TV and your mom's come in the room and you didn't hear her, and then you jump scare there, right? Oh, was that horrifying? Well, not really.
It's a surprise.
Exactly.
For me, it's also like because the whole idea of the never use the second person. It's good. It's very important. But for the horror tone, it becomes a little bit more maneuverable because sometimes if you want to lose control, somebody else got to do the second person, and that somebody might be the GM. Now, the GM doesn't have to say you in his voice, in his sentence. This is where the show don't tell can be interesting. You guys have been talking about eliminating the you, changing the phrase structure, saying it instead. So there is a cold presence in the room. In the corner of the room, there is a shadowy figure moving. Now you never say the word ghost. If you have 5 players and 2 out of 5 don't get it that it's a ghost, it can create confusion, sometimes. Until
those players that do get it start adding to the scene and reacting to it, then the other get it, right?
yeah,
The,
of
the,
course,
the,
my
the
main
description,
thing about
the
of course.
resolution is always getting clearer and clearer because, like, of course, when you first describe a scene, things are vague, but as the player evolve in the scene, things get more defined, and everybody like now refine their picture that they have in their mind, stuff like that, and you all go along, and that's part of the
it's not like Scooby-Doo where they
collective
all
experience.
experience at the same time. Maybe a player closer to the area sees it first, figures it out first, and starts radioing, hey, get over here, pronto.
I see a
Save me.
ghost. But now I have a counter problem coming up, is that how can you be scared of something that you made up?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Oh,
is it
so is the
about like
GM? You're saying
scaring
the GM doesn't scare
You know what I'm
himself?
saying? Like when the player starts to make that shit up, how can they become scared of that thing they created?
Or the players in roleplay, the characters could do something scary on top of what's already being described
aren't we always
because
scared
they're
of the thing
insane.
that we create? When you're a lad and you're in
That's
your
very
bedroom.
philosophical.
When
That's that's very philosophical. That's like, okay, I'm
when
gonna.
you're a lad and you're in your bedroom, right? And you see shadow, like, and it might just be like a shirt that you left on the chair, or it might be like some branch of the tree that come through the window, right? And the shade of the branch of the tree that come through the window. Hopefully not the branch themselves. Then that's creepy. But and then you get scared of those things, but it's those things that you made out yourself, right? And wouldn't that apply as well to RPG? Maybe they say like the air in this room is glacial, and then like the players start imagining that there's a ghost or something like that, and then he start getting scared because now I think there's a ghost, and maybe as a GM, like, well, is it a ghost? Is there not a ghost? Maybe it's just cold, right? But
Well,
now like the player is this incertitude, right? And wouldn't that play into that? If you keep things a little more vague, and if you let the player like run out with their imagination, that's what scares us, isn't it?
I'm not really trying to scare people by removing you from vocabulary, but I want
Well, you
removing
do.
you. What I want to happen is I want players to role play their characters. Because if I'm saying you all the time, I'm role playing the character for them.
Yeah.
That's my main beef, is that the players aren't role playing in these games. They're just waiting to be told when to roll dice. I want to avoid all that. And if you have let's say you have 5 players, they're all inputting their own stuff, their own characters, likes and dislikes. They're going to add confusion, mayhem, chaos on top of some little thing you just sparked in their mind. Instead of me controlling the whole thing, the whole scene, the whole shot.
Horror is a bitch. It's
But
a
I think,
bitch in RPG. It's
and,
complicated because
and to be honest,
go ahead, Max.
I think like nobody does horror in RPG right because they try to scare the player, and they're not trying,
And
and
the
everybody's
stream's always
laughing.
laughing.
Exactly, because we know it's silly, we know it's a game, and you look at those game of Call of Cthulhu, and that's what people like always make joke, always break tension and stuff like that, right? And I think I think that's the point. That's
Man,
just watch the Alien RPG being played on YouTube.
I was oh man. You guys are touching on something. I was thinking about that this week. I was listening to people in the car, and people playing RPGs and stuff. And one thing I have you guys noticed that most sessions comes down, ends up sometimes even with the best intentions, become this goofball thing
Yeah.
where people
Out of
laugh
character.
and create out of character, but sometimes they bleed into character, and then they make some references, even though, and then it becomes this goofy thing where you try to do horror, but it's kind of laughable. You're trying to do suspense and thriller
Well,
and
they're trying to have
action,
fun.
but it's always a
It's
little
all
bit
about having
funny.
fun.
It's about
Mhm.
having fun.
Yeah, people
So,
don't take the hobby seriously, which it's
but
fine,
even
right?
though
Like
no,
it's
but even though they do, Max, have you noticed? You can be with a group who do this social contract
yeah,
before, and they do the session zero and they talk about it. We
Yeah,
don't
they
want to
do
do
it.
serious drama,
They make
and
characters together.
yeah, they make characters together and they get into it, and they still have
They do
these
the
moments
intro with
of
the music and the eerie title effects.
and the thing is that these moments are lighthearted, fun,
yeah.
and even though it's goofy a little, sometimes you get into the groove, and then it doesn't last long, and you come back into seriousness. But they are always there. It's very, very hard to see a super serious session where people are like crying and be are all dramatic. I do think it's the nature of the hobby somehow.
For me,
It's
I see it. No, I don't agree with that. But I see it
I don't neither, but
like the soccer player, right? You've met like people that are good at with soccer with a soccer ball, right? They can do
Mhm.
those trick, and then they juggle with their feet, and then they roll the ball on their shoulder and like from knee to knee, and they have great control of the ball, right? And sometimes they're gonna do that like outside the game, and then it's impressive and it shows some skill. But if they were starting to do that during the game,
Oh, forget about
you'd say like, no, for fuck's sake, man,
it.
just play the game, right? It's part of soccer culture, but when you're playing the game, you're playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, cosplay.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think in role playing game we in RPG we lack this distinction. Okay, right? We can joke after about the game later, but like it's but like during the game, Space Road, he said this is 4D, fun is bad. Yeah, we're against fun. That's what we're trying to take out of the role playing session.
Fun is like
We're
the
trying
bottom
to
of the
we're
barrel.
looking for
I,
a different
That's the
type of
bottom of the
fun.
barrel. Fun is the
I
bottom of the
don't
barrel.
think that fun is bad, and I don't
No.
think that fun is out of the question when it's drama.
It's not the
You
goal.
know,
Fun isn't the goal.
I think fun is in the goal. I think experience is the goal.
Yeah.
But what happens is
Having a specific experience, I think that
these
is more the
guys,
goal of fun, because sometimes
these
this experience is not fun. When you
these
are the
guys and
character,
gals,
go ahead, Shauna. Sorry.
these guys and gals, after their comedic game session, they go on their X account and post, we had a blast role playing in character last night. You got to see this. And then I'll say, I don't see any role play in your game session whatsoever. And then they go, and they go back and forth, and then their last thing is, well, at least we're having fun. As long as we're having fun, we're not doing it wrong if we're having fun.
Yeah.
That's their lowest
But
common
go
denominator.
go back to my example of the soccer player. Imagine if this guy was trying to like juggle with the ball and stuff like that, right? And like during the game, and then you say like,
During
can
the
you
World Cup.
stop? Yeah, can you stop doing that? Well, I'm just having fun. We're just here to have fun, guys. So like, well,
Yeah, exactly.
it's
You're gonna
competitive.
make us
It-
It's
lose.
competitive role play ranked.
it's it's a good example. I've been trying to have this recently in a Booh game that I'm playing. We have a social contract. We
Which
say
edition?
we third edition TSR, the
Okay.
last, the
The
best one.
last.
Yeah, the last one. And we're like, okay, so we're trying to be serious here, historical, drama, no humor and everything. And one of the guys, we said, yes, 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 yes. And then we start playing. And then he bring in a joke and another one and another one and another. And I'm like, as the GM,
Were they in character doing the jokes?
yes, all in
Yeah.
character. And I'm
Okay.
like, oh yeah, in character, Shauna, I'm telling you. And I'm like, we said we want to be, the West, the conquest of the West, the Wild West was not fun. It was not funny. It was harsh time. It was nasty. The Indians, the diseases.
I'm sure
The,
still people still
you
make
know
jokes
the
and laugh, right?
come on, it was not fun. It was the gangs of bandidos coming into town, shooting in the air, man, nah, I don't believe that
Clint
was fun.
Eastwood doesn't laugh in his movies, does he?
Anyway, I was like, let's make it historical.
Well,
And
if
the
you look
guy
at a
comes
movie
in.
like The Good, the Bad, and the Uglies, like there's some jokes in there, right? Some character does make some jokes.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a movie. I'm talking about
Yeah,
historical.
yeah, no, but I'm well, like, yeah, like, no, I'm just saying
Movies
like
are historical
replying to Shawnee,
facts.
say like Clint Eastwood doesn't
Oh,
laugh in his.
okay, talking about the movies. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
no,
like
no.
I'm not against having a character that can be a bit of a jokester, but if you have to be also in character emotionally, and in some situation your character is not going to be inclined to make a joke, right? Like if like there's some situation you just don't make joke. You can make joke. You can be a character that like to push a joke sometime, but he's not gonna push a joke all the time because you're under stress, you're under fire, you're under like this thing, right? Then you say like, well, you know what? Or if he does, like somebody's gonna, can you fucking shut the fuck up?
For some reason, I think
The
that
cook.
the joking and
Yep.
the goofball phenomenon, let's call it that way, is I think it's a psychological reaction to immersion. It's too intense. I'm
Yep.
living these emotions. I don't know how to react. I'm gonna make a joke because I
Yeah.
wanna light up the room
Yeah, I
because
think
right.
you're right on that.
You know what I'm saying? That I do think it's that, and it comes very easily. And there's a
Yep.
certain type of personality that does that as well. You can tell by the player. You guys made a conversation a couple of weeks ago, months ago, about vetting players.
Yep.
Giving them some kind of a interview, before joining a group. I think it's important because if you don't know who you play with, you put hours and hours doing session zero social contract, and then you have this guy at the table who makes these jokes, and then trying to light up the room when you're trying to do horror, and you're like, oh man, we
I
work
need to
so
see
hard.
their YouTube videos first. If they don't have a YouTube channel, I don't vet them. I don't know.
Shut up.
What am I going to do?
They're
Vet every
already
stranger
vetted.
on the block?
Yeah, I mean, when you are in person, let's say you play, can you scare yourself? Can you tickle yourself? I think you can.
Yeah, I think you can as well. Sometimes you catch yourself off guard. Yeah, I
I
think you
did.
can.
On the
When
fly,
I was
can think
when I
of
was
some.
younger, I did scare myself. I remember a couple times. I did.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah.
Let's say
I
the
did do that.
session goes well, and you have that you were immersed, and it's still in your head. The stuff that
You're
went on in that
immersed.
session is still in your head. Remember when Samuel G, when you did the Traveler session, one shot for us, but you were using World of Darkness?
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was intense.
Meat hooks and crap.
Oh man.
Me and Bash Biznet had to figure out how to fit into an escape pod, and there was only room for one.
Only room for one.
It
So
was kinda
what are you gonna
creepy.
do? What
That
you
one I
gonna
still
do?
remember. That
Yeah,
one still
but-
creeps me out.
You put those dilemmas, ethical dilemmas. Two people.
Yep.
There's a one escape pod. What you gonna do? Are you gonna kill him with your bare hands to get into that pod?
Do the noble sacrifice.
We were both
Because it's gonna end up to
losing
that.
sanity. At one point, I wasn't sure if my character just imagined the pod. Maybe it wasn't even a pod we were trying to fit into.
In the broom closet.
It could have been a trash compactor.
That is funny because sometimes you play with people. You're the GM. You describe stuff, and the character imagines something nicer than what you describe, or better, or worse. And you're like, I never thought about that. Let's do it.
This was a very good comment I wanted to highlight from
Go
Bison
ahead.
there. I think I think something in the mirror just moved, right? When you give like some freedom to your player with the 4D and other stuff can work great for that, right? Now, like if everybody can contribute, now like you got something creepy like going on there.
Yeah.
And then he joke like saying the GM like, no, it didn't. That'd be, like, the worst.
That's the worst GM answer. That's the worst GM answer. No, it
Like the
didn't.
this player give you like this great fucking
It
like
was a
free
good
like
idea.
this
No, it
good
didn't.
bow that you can you can like pull on like a bit of rope you can pull on, and then he say like, no, I got my story written here already. I already planned. Yeah, but that's a good point,
That's
right?
a
Because
good
like we're
example of
talking about like
how.
trying to scare the player stuff like that, and I say no, try to scare the character, but also like if you go into 4D and you allow co-creation stuff like that, now everybody can contribute a little something creepy to the scene. And that can be interesting as well because not only like it's not only like the GM trying, but it's everybody trying to create this creepy atmosphere.
Mhm.
Why not? That could be a good way to go about it as well, no?
Of course, that's the ideal. You
Yeah.
have a really cool group with some players that can scare themselves. You know, uh, I think also, and you guys know this, but I think it's easier to scare yourself together as a group, face to face, around the table. I think it might be easier than on the screen.
Yeah,
I don't know
because
if you
at a
guys
table,
understand.
you know who's looking at you in the eye. Like, can you tell
Yeah,
can you tell which of you I'm looking at right now in the eye?
No. Well, you're looking neither. You're looking at a camera in the eyes.
yeah, that's weird. I tend to look at the camera. I was asking myself the question since the beginning of this conversation. I'm like, if I'm looking at the camera, I'm looking at everybody. But if I'm
Yeah.
looking at Max, he doesn't know I'm looking at him. If I look at Sean, he doesn't know I'm looking at him.
Well, no. So sometimes mirror and stuff like that make things confusing. Yeah. When
Well,
I'm trying
imagine
to
if you're doing
point.
a Hollywood Squares online game. You got like 9 players, 9 player boxes, and the GM's in the middle. That's no one knows who's looking at who at that point.
It's interesting. I've been scared. I know I've been scared a few times in RPGs, but it was not gory or it was not like that supernatural. It was more like ethical, and tough decisions that
Yeah,
scares you to decide. Does it make sense? It's
yeah,
like you don't want to make a decision
you're
because it's
challenged.
too, yeah, it's too demanding. And you're like, if I choose this, it's gonna do that. If I choose, and then you have
And no
you can make,
matter what side you choose,
yeah,
it's still horrific. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
it's not
Those,
black or white, it's just gray.
yeah, and those doesn't happen according to genre necessarily.
Nope.
It's a tone thing, but it's also a product of the thing that we do, which is randomizing situations
Yeah.
that makes sense together through role play, and then eventually you are faced with that dilemma as a player.
And
And
that's something I wanted to bring back too, because we were talking about like agency, like, and I mentioned already, like, if you got good players, you can let them control their character losing control. I think that's the best case scenario.
Hmm.
You don't have to take away the control of the players, right? Just like, you know what, you're going insane, whatever, right? Just like you find a way to present it according to the system and to the, but the character is going insane, and the player like can be trusted to role play that. That's great. Uh, but I wanted to say also about like this, because we were talking about earlier about like taking a lot of horror is about being like disempowered, right? That would be the term. And I think you can do that without taking player agency. You just, sometimes you can create a scenario, a situation, I should say, to not cause confusion. You can create a situation where uh, y- you don't know, you like as a player, you don't know what your character doesn't know what to do. So there, your character is disempowered. Like he's scared. Like I'm gonna fucking hide in this closet because I cannot get out right now. Right? You don't have to force him, but you made it clear that it's a bad idea to come out, right? Just because like the monster is out there or whatever it is, right? Just like, or oh, there's this mob coming up that seem to be possessed or whatever, right? Should we try to run? Should we stay here? Is the building gonna stay? Right? They can have those questions, and the mob keep advancing while they debate that. So
hmm.
you can disempower them by giving, like, by presenting them basically like lose-lose scenario in a way. So
One thing
I don't
that I
know.
find. Go ahead, Max. I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead. No, no, go ahead. I was finished my thought. I was.
Okay, so one thing that I noticed in what you're saying is, what about, this is just a question, what about true horror or true scared for a player, you know, through the character is would be, what about, as for the GM, what about if I take your agency? What about for a while I take away your agency? But I don't do it. I just, linger the idea that, if you do this decision, if you make that decision, I'm gonna take away your agency. For example, one idea that Shauna brought in was like, you fail a save and I cut your leg off. Shauna did that in one of your conversations. You went you wake up in the hospital and you have no more legs, and I'm like, okay, that's scary. So as a player, what about you play and the GM is like lingering toward you or broadcasting somehow that if you do this or if you do that, you're going to lose a certain amount of agency as a player. So now your character has to be scared somehow in
How
front
would
of this.
you how would you do that? How would you present that idea while staying in narrator mode, right? Not saying as a GM like, oh, if you do that,
Of
right? You
course,
don't want to
yeah,
do that as a GM. You want to state
NPCs.
what is, what's happening, then yeah,
it's a
the
good,
The
it's a
NPC.
good
nurse, the
question.
nurse in
It's a
the
good question.
hospital, the nurse in the mental ward.
But the
She,
nurse
she, she,
cannot say, oh, if you try
she'll
to get
have
out of the
rules.
mental ward, the GM is gonna take off your.
No, no, no,
The
no, no,
nurse
no,
cannot say that, right?
no,
The
no,
nurse
no,
can
no, no,
say, if
no.
you try to take off walk out of the mental ward, we're gonna restrain you on the bed. But then that's not the GM taking away the agency. That's something in the world taking the character's agency. So that's fair.
Like an NPC can threaten a player character,
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. That's not the GM taking the
or
player's
the
agency.
cops. The cops can say, we're doing, what do you call it? The DUI checks
Yeah, but
this
you get the
evening.
distinction that I'm making there, right?
Yeah. Samuel G, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. I want to reply to some comment again, because there was some question that I see. Da-da-da-da. Hello, Mercurius or Olicus. By the way,
But yeah,
I don't know what you were talking about, rock paper scissors, but
some players think that if you talk in character, you're still saying what the GM would say through your NPC. That's annoying.
there's no monster Kate in this room in the manual. Yeah, exactly. That's how people like yeah. Dice Tales, a player continue contributing to a horror scenario could very derail the reality of the horror behind the scenario. I would not recommend that. Well, that's also starting from the premise. It seemed to be starting from the premise that you do have a scenario, and I reject this premise. We just create it at the table, right? There's no rail, so there's nothing to derail.
The players agree to go with the flow for the most part.
Yeah.
Instead of making drastic changes to it later.
Yeah.
Players decide they want to go a different route in the game session.
Yeah, but then as a GM, you need to react. Like, you need to be a reactive GM, like, reactive and honest dialogue.
When I was learning how to
honest
roleplay,
and reactive.
I would just.
I don't know why I exchanged you. It didn't make sense.
Samuel G might remember this. When I was learning how to roleplay, I was just the referee sitting there saying nothing, and the players were doing all the talking.
Shauna was a very passive GM at the beginning. Very, very passive.
Because I wanted
he was
to
not saying
try
much.
it out. I wanted to see how that works.
Yeah, and it was funny because there was some leaders back then. Andrew Martinez was a very good leader as a player because he was talking in character and putting everybody in the scene. He was not fooling around, never doing the third person. He was just boom right away, and everybody had to jump him.
I found out that doesn't work. My experiment wasn't working unless I had proactive players. If some of the players weren't proactive,
it's major.
Then it was just a slow.
Yeah, it's major.
Yeah,
you have as a player, if you want to have that 40 or 30 3D or whatever. If you want to have an immersive experience where everybody role plays in the definition of role playing, which is being in character, making decision in character, that
Yep.
makes sense with the genre and tone and social contract and all that.
Yep.
Everybody needs to be on the same page. Everybody needs to be driving toward that. Otherwise, you're gonna have a few people that is gonna be wallflowers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah, one character decided he was going to be a tree. His character was going to
I
be a
remember,
tree.
I remember.
And I said, "You're going to have to role play that," and he never.
You're gonna
did.
have to role play. It's
He was
like
trying
it's
to
like
role
the
play it
elf
as
in
himself.
fantasy. It's just like the elf in fantasy, right?
Yep.
Or you guys are talking about tieflings. I know Max have something with the tieflings. He's like, if you want to be a tiefling, you got motherfucker, you gotta be a tiefling. You know,
Yeah.
you know.
You can't just play yourself in cosplay.
I want to. The thing with the horror, because you guys mentioned, because I was listening, I heard you guys, even though I was I left. I was listening. You guys said up something about horror. That I do believe we are adults. We are grown men. That's the three of us right here.
Doomed.
So I don't believe we gonna get scared in an RPG session. I don't think that's. I think it's a good idea. I don't think that's what's happening.
Or we've
I think
seen
that's-
everything that we're not scared of anything anymore.
I
Everything's
might
been
be-
done already.
I think that AI is there. I think we should be scared of AI. I think we should be scared of it.
AI does some really scary
of make believe that's going on.
Liminal spaces. I like to use liminal spaces now.
But liminal spaces are scary as an idea. But
I'm in the
And the
middle
AI
space.
takes it a step further.
but I think that in the RPG, I think it's tension. It's like an elastic. You know, there's tension, and then there's a decision that's to be made, and sometimes there's dice involved, and the dice makes the scare, like the Jenga tower for Dread. And so there's a tension, and then there's a release. There's a tension, but it can be horrified. But how much of a gory description or horrific description a GM can produce for you to be horrified? I just think that you're going to be tense toward a decision as a player. If you want to role play, I don't know if that's a question. I want to ask you guys a question. Are you guys in character scared? You know, I'm scared for my character more than I'm scared in character. I don't know if you guys understand what I mean. I want to know where you guys are by that.
Okay, like I see my character sometimes as me watching a movie, and my character's in the movie. So sometimes I'm worried that my character is going to die soon.
Exactly. So Shauner is worried about his character.
As a player, I start sweating bullets. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
Wondering if my character is going to make it through this or not.
There you go. So that's probably the most where you can get.
I try as much as I can to override my own mindset with the mindset of my character while I'm there. So I don't I don't watch my character like I'm watching a movie, because I see the scene through the eyes of my character. I put myself there, and that's what I see. I see what my character would see, and then my character is scared, and I do feel some of that fear on me. Right? I know it's not me, but I'm projected myself on the character, but it's almost like I projected the character on me, on the character's emotion on me. So it did happen that I got scared, that it's like I'm not terrified, but we're chased by those we need to leave this script. There's this evil that we try to fight, and we quickly realized there was no way we'd win, and we're just trying to get out of there. And then we get lost, and the time is ticking, and then I'm almost sweating bullet, right? Just I'm there, and it's fuck, I'm just yeah, I do get scared through my character, I would say.
So Max is scared. So
I see myself in my own eyes, through my own eyes. Like my point of view is from my character.
Yeah.
but I'll add more dramatics in my imagination. So I pull the camera out into a, long shot. My
Already.
character is just a little dot, standing in front of the cosmos, and my character is now insignificant.
No, I
But
tried
that's
to I
just
tried
me.
to
That's
avoid
just me
doing
as
that.
a viewer. But my
Mm.
character is still calm and collective. He or she's got the stats to get through this, no problem.
That's interesting. That's a different than what you just said though,
Yeah.
because you're not necessarily scared through the character of the through the player through the character. As a player, you're not necessarily scared through the player. You might be scared of what's gonna happen, or you might be contemplating the scares of what's happening. It's a nuance. It's not the same thing.
Like your title is "Tear Off Your Skin." That already
Yeah.
gets you into the mood.
Well,
It's
you
doing
can
the
see
countdown.
you can see tear as a tear. So
Yeah,
tear off your skin. So
yeah.
Oh,
you're
like you're
crying.
moving up the.
Exactly.
It could be
I was
that too.
like, so he's like, cry
Yeah.
because I'm
No.
telling you the truth. Try.
It's it's clearly remove your skin.
I understand. I understand. I saw the skinless
But
man at the beginning, but I was
yeah.
like, tear off your skin, because this show is telling so much hard truth. Like there is a lot of hard truth that is being said here about this hobby, because there's a lot of people who are stuck in situations that they don't like, and they don't realize it, and they're like, it's not what it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
I'm not having fun. I'm going to this friend's place, and it's a 3 hour, 4 hour session,
You're
and it's like,
serious.
it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
It's not. It doesn't. So one of
This
the
isn't
things
D
that
and
is
D.
it's just important, I think, to understand that there are. I don't want to use the word layers because it's Anthony's words, but
Why use
there
themes,
are
tone, mood?
Dimension.
there
That's
are
the word,
dimensions. No, but there
that's
are
the word
different
we use around here.
there are different experiences that can be achieved through this hobby, and depending on the people you play with, depending on the games, depending on the
Yep.
depending on so
Even the
many
character.
things.
Some
Even the
characters get
character,
scared. Some
even
characters
the
get
character.
scared easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some are stoic. They 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 fear nothing.
And so when you have to role play that, it's hard to be scared. That's why I asked the question. As a player, Sean or Max, do you get scared, Max and Sean, or is the character or the trying to be scared that is the experience?
Well,
Yeah. No. Like.
I'll role play a character in Doom, right? I'm gonna go to the portal, go into
Hmm.
Satan's world or whatever, the demon world. That's my character's plan. I'm bargaining or gambling that I have the stats to do this without losing sanity, but I'll still have to make a sanity roll. And then based on what the results of that, then my character begins to fear things.
Or not to fear thing.
Or there's no change whatsoever.
There. Well, no,
We're,
but
we're, we're, we're nuking we're
sometimes
nuking
like there's
Satan as planned.
sometimes the change is that you become insensitive to fear, right? You like that you this fight or flight thing, like sometimes you get
Well, if
scared, you
they're a
want to move
veteran,
yourself,
maybe
but
they're a
sometimes
veteran.
something breaks in you, yeah, and then you just go
This
like all Vietnam on on the
this
demon.
this is your seventh drop on this world. You're playing Quake 2, and this is your seventh drop on this world. You're fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Horror is
There's
hard, man. I just, I
But
just, I'm
even
just saying, in this hobby, it's probably one of the worst.
but
Uh,
even like outside of horror,
toughest, toughest
getting
to get.
scared to your character is something you can try in any game, right?
Do you
You
think
need
you
to.
can? Do you think you can train it?
Yes. Yes, I think you can train it, and I think it's worthwhile to train it. Like next time you have a character that need to cross a giant chasm on a fallen log, right? Think if you're in that situation. Most people not everybody's scared of height, but in those kind of situations, it's normal to have some fear, and you should feel that, right? Put yourself like see the wall to the edge of character, like blank everything else, and now you're there on that fallen log. There's nothing under your feet, some cloud, right? And now you have to cross there. Your character should be scared of that situation. It's normal, unless like you're this like tightrope
A
walker that do that
lumberjack.
every day before morning, yeah, or something like that, right?
They built these Empire State Building
Yeah,
without any net.
yeah,
Some
They're
people
used to
do it.
heights.
yeah.
Some crazy people do it. I was thinking about that recently. At
They have
least today.
acrobatic skill.
Today, I was listening to some of your conversations, and I was like, can it can it be possible to role play, practice an emotion through role play? Can it's possible to practice an emotional reaction, for
Yes.
role
You-
play?
I
And
think
you-
it's something
but-
similar that happened in real life.
it's do as actors does it for their
Mhm.
films and their movies and theater. Um, Writer probably does do it as well when they write about their characters, but for me, it's always seems fake. I have a lot of problem practicing emotions
if it's
and
a
getting better at. Yeah.
If it's a situation I haven't role played in before or had happened in real life before, then I'm just more interested in going through it and
Yeah.
see if I can learn something.
Sometimes I get surprised
Yeah, me too.
by how my character react because I put myself in the character. There's the situation that happened, and then all of a sudden, I'm scared, or I'm not, or I'm angry, or I get like super uptight about something. I can react in a way because I'm so invested in the character at the moment. Like after, and that cannot happen like at the beginning of the session because you always take a little time to get in the skin, right? But
Especially in the first episode.
yeah, especially in the first episode when you figure out what the character is really. But then, like at some point, and just like that's also part of the fun for me. I'm discovering who this guy is, what his story is, right? And then, oh, in this situation, because that's also what happened in real life. You don't know, like we can always make those scenarios. Oh, if I was there, I don't know, like if I was there, thing wouldn't happen like that. I would have told this guy whatever, which is saying like those Italian kind of stuff, right? But then you're there, and then you freeze, or you're there, and then all of a sudden, like, oh no, you become like super, compliant,
You
right? So
get
you
imposter
don't know,
syndrome sometimes.
yeah.
Your
But
character freezes up. It's like, oh, I'm out of my element.
yeah, we
That
discover
shocks.
who we are through experience, and we discover who our character are through play, right?
One thing
And
I
I think
like to do.
that's a very interesting part of the hobby for me.
One thing I like to do that's challenging for me at least is to start a session and you don't have a character yet and there's no setting yet. It's just a black void. That there's fear right there. You don't know what you are yet and you don't know where you're at. You don't
Yeah,
even know if you're
well,
going to be human in the game session.
that's the fear I have in real life.
Some people wake up in the morning and they can't get out of bed because they're frozen with fear. I
Yeah,
forget
well,
what
I'm
that's
not.
called, but
I'm with rage that I wake up another morning. I wanted to reply to some question in chat. Yekrep. I don't know if I say I, by the way. So I have been thinking about this question for a while. When should GM see you? I think you are close to nailing down on the video the
he needs
prime,
to
but I
watch
would
the next video
offer a different
before
question.
this one.
Yeah, but I think
He,
that's what the one you're referring to. He was referring. He wasn't asking the question when should the GM see you. He was saying basically like he missed like in when should GM see you. The word "you" is not a prime, and using "you" as an object doesn't solve the problem either. The problem is describing the private, subjective experience of the player. I think describing the private, subjective experience of a player is a big part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is bigger than that because, like I said, like some GM just say, "Oh, you do this," or "You go there," or "You go through the door," and say, "Well, wait, I'm not going through the door." It's like, so it's not like that's not like a subjective, a private subjective experience. That's also like also I guess you would say like the private subjective experience of the character, not the player. But
for me, the
we make
problem
those
is no
confusion
one
all
role
the time.
plays in their games. That's the most heinous
Yeah,
problem. 99%
yeah.
of these game sessions, no one's role playing. And at the end of the day, they'll say, "Oh, we had fun role playing together."
Yeah. What Chandler is just saying is, for me, is that a lot of people in this hobby, what they do as players, they react to what the GM is saying instead of role playing. So you can argue that they react in character, but when you react all the time, you don't do anything. It's the whole idea of being proactive.
Yeah, they
Yep.
react as a player, and it's their turn. And what do? They look at their character's sheet to see
Exactly.
what it is their character
Yeah.
would do.
Or what?
How
But
they're
no,
Fear,
different.
fear
You know-
washes you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Crep has a good example here.
But like they look at the character sheet to look what button they can press. Yeah, I wanted to highlight that because that's a continuation of what we were saying, and it's a very good point. You feel scared is red because because of the you feel, yeah. But fear washes over you. You is an object. That's true. The problem in both cases is the emotion, which is private and subjective. I agree with you there.
See,
Saying
the
fear washes
player
over
might
you
ask, what kind
wouldn't
of
be
fear
great either.
washes over me?
It's terror. it's a
If you
it's a,
say,
it's a
if you say,
it's
if you
a
tell me
level
how I
3 terror.
feel, if you tell me how I feel, you take my agency away.
No, but I would agree with that with your cap. Yes, you feel scared is bad, and fear washes over you doesn't solve that. Uh, but you know
Just
Just as
explain.
bad. It's
Just
that
as
that,
bad.
that wasn't the point of the video I was
Just-
making.
describe what washes over you without saying fear.
Or
Then the character or the player can decide if they're afraid or not.
Yeah. Just say what's happening. Just describe what's happening in the scene,
It's-
right?
You know, something washed over you.
Because the thing that I feel that is sometimes neglected in this conversation is the idea that whenever the GM tells you that something is happening to you, it is important for the plot. Otherwise, he wouldn't say it to you. So I mean, in the average game you get into, the GM's gonna say, "Hey, you see this, and it reminds you of this," or "You see that,
Yeah.
and it feels like that for you."
Yeah.
What the GM doesn't mean bad, or he's not,
Oh, seeing this
being.
picture make you
storytelling.
feel
The
very
gene is
nostalgic.
storytelling.
He's just exactly. He's just trying to portray something that is important for his plot that he prepared in advance because
Yeah.
he wanted to have something for you guys at the table. So he doesn't mean harm. He means well. It's just that it's for some players, for some people in this hobby, this is bad form in the sense that I want to be able to do what I want to do. I want to be able to role play, with full agency. If you tell me how I feel or what I know or what I'm supposed to know, or
MLG,
it takes away my agency.
Yeah.
did this storytelling nonsense come on its own, independently, or did it come from World of Darkness?
Oh man, I'm not knowledgeable enough to answer that question.
I think they're independent studies on
I,
their own.
I think you have the STGs that comes from the Forge. That the indie games with the
Yeah, but-
STGs, the storytelling games, and you
But
have
these
the
guys have never
storytelling
heard-
system, which is the
but
idea
the-
that
the
World of
majority-
Darkness had.
Majority of so-called role players in the hobby have never heard of the Forge. So where did they get this storytelling stuff from? It was passed down from WWII, because WWII says in 5th edition that
It's
D&D
an
is a
independent discovery.
storytelling.
It's a good
But World of
question, Sean.
Darkness, they use storyteller.
Storyteller
storytelling
is
system.
it's the name they gave to
But-
the system,
Yeah,
Which is
but
unfortunate.
but
they're
it's
not
just
storytelling.
it's just a
the
bad
games
name.
I've watched, the players are proactive and they're in character, and no one knows how the story is going to end up. There's no pre-written story in World of Darkness that I know of.
Well,
I mean, there could
there's
be.
the meta plot is very fucking thick.
Now I'm talking about the 90s and 2000s. Maybe World of Darkness is like D&D 5e now, for all I know.
Mhm.
I think also like the fact that World of Darkness, they did something very smart, that they set the setting kind of in the real world, and
That helps.
oftentimes it's assumed that when you start a new character, you're a new vampire or some shit like that. So you don't know about the vampire world. So the character learns at the same time as the player, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was very smart to do, because setting the setting making the setting the real world allows the player to make assumption about the world, right? They know how the world work, so they don't have to stop and ask question. You don't have like, and then it's easier to improvise because you don't have to say, well, actually, in that system, in that setting, things work that way, right? Just like you don't have that thing because, like, well, it's the real world. We understand how it works, right? I understand what's gonna happen if I break a window of a shop at night. I understand what happen if I try to, all kind of thing you do, right? So I think that helps a lot. That was a very smart decision of them.
I think Space Roadie has a very good comment. If you're relying on your GM description to carry the horror, you've already failed.
Yes, very
And
interesting.
yeah, and I think he's right. And I think that is the problem with horror in this hobby. Every other tone, I don't think horror is a genre. I think it's a tone. Every other tone,
Yeah, I agree.
every other tone. You know, you can do it on your own because of the disempowerment aspect of horror. You kind of have to give out some agency to the GM. Otherwise, you have to scare yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that for some people is very hard. That's why some people never get scared in RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Some people they just don't. It doesn't work for them.
But I think, I think that's the point, right? If you just wait, like I always say, as a GM, don't make the players your audience. You're not there to tell them a story. In the case of horror, you're not there to scare them, right? You're there to, you're all there together. You're working together. Like it's a communal, like the GM is not the author of the story. Every player around the table are collectively the author of the story, right? So we figure out what's happening as we go. And I think that's a very important point. And and but oftentimes that's the thing. People want to, oh, I'm gonna, like, they're gonna sit before the game, they're gonna do those box text ready and stuff like that. They're gonna put some like description with those Lovecraftian words, right? And just like, and try to be very clever about it. And I think that's the wrong that's the wrong approach to me. That's not that's not what should happen. What do you think, Sean?
Well, most players, they don't have the rules, they don't know the system, and they never read the H.P. Lovecraft books. They're going to be in your COC campaign that's going to go on for 30 episodes.
Oh, Shauna, man.
How can characters last that long in one? No one's character lasts 33 4-hour sessions. It doesn't work. What are they doing?
I think
there's no character progression. You can't be in a tavern for 3 sessions. It's stretched out.
And
it's
yes, you can. You what do you say? You cannot be in character for what? For 30 session?
Most COC game sessions on YouTube go on for 33 episodes, and they're 4 hours long each. Same players, same characters.
Yeah.
Are they doing Scooby-Doo? Is it episodic? What's going on?
They need. What you mean is that it needs an ending. That's another very important topic in RPGs. Yeah, there should be an ending.
It's not a never-ending story.
Exactly.
If you want
to have horror that eventually makes sense, it needs to have a dead end, like an ending. If it just keeps going all the time, eventually the scares kind of because scare.
When I was a kid, Call of Cthulhu was treated in the opposite end of the spectrum, where, oh, not everyone showed up for D&D? Okay, let's just do a one-shot of Call of Cthulhu then. It's just a one-shot. We don't care about a character. We don't care who dies or lives. It's just a one-shot.
Yeah.
Next week we'll go back to our normal D&D game campaign. Mm-hmm. That's how Call of Cthulhu was treated in the 80s.
Yep.
Wow.
It was the standby. Oh, there's nothing else to do. Let's just play Call of Cthulhu.
But that's the thing too, because a lot of like the horror rely on the familiarity, right? When you get like familiar with something, you don't get scared by it. You get contempt for it, right? And So that's the problem with doing those long campaign of like in the horror tone, because at some point, right, first, if you do something that are very horrific, at some point, as your character would have a chance to stop, he would just fucking stop, right? Unless there's a threat that threaten the world and stuff like that, but then you can always only have that once, right? And if you stretch it too long, it loses impact as well. So I think I think the horror tone does need to be like a bit like in a smaller package. Even if you look at the stuff like well, I guess like you'd say like the Walking Dead was never a horror show really. There was like horror element to it.
I
But
never watched that, so I don't know
you're not
what it
missing much,
even
I'd say.
is. But in
But
Call of Cthulhu, the players
the
do
zombies,
patty cake.
yeah.
The characters just do patty cake with each other, so they're not facing danger. They're not.
Mhm.
They're staying. They're staying in the parlor or the diner or on a train, railroad car.
I don't think fucking Walking Dead is horror. I'm sorry, guys. You know,
No.
if you want to have horror, think about Shining. Think about
Yeah, that's an interesting
cinema. You know, like fucking all these Chainsaw Massacre movies. You know, this is horror. It's not long. It's just
Oh, you
intense
think so?
weirdness, problematic stuff, and it's like
Like,
I
what
like
about like
28
the
Days
Saw
Later.
movie?
huh?
Saw. I have those.
Saw.
Yeah.
Saw is not horror.
They're
Saw is
escape
almost
rooms.
Saw is almost comedic to me.
It's
Yeah, like-
I would
over the top.
say, you know, horror. I mean, it's a matter of taste at this point. I would say.
Well, it's also like
But-
that's the thing, because like you said, like I think I agree with you that horror is a tone, but there's this thing with like those Saw movie. For me, that's not real horror. There's gore, but there's something horrific if you project yourself in the position of one of those characters, and then you think like, oh, what would I do if I wasn't? And then you get a bit scared. Oh no, if I was in that situation, I'd be so scared. Would I
you know,
blind myself, or I don't know? I never saw those movies. Like, I saw, like, some
you know, if you want to make that if you want to do that thought experiment, think about those two. I have two Spielberg movies.
Yeah.
Poltergeist, the first
Yeah.
one, and Arachnophobia.
I haven't seen this one.
Okay, so this is two, and even an earlier movie from Spielberg, the same guy who is not an horror director. If you want to go there, one of his first movies is about a hitchhiker thing. It's an hitchhiker movie. It's very nasty. It's very horrific. It's very hard. It's very disturbing. So you have Arachnophobia, who scared a shit ton of people. Arachnophobia is well known to be a horror movie, a scary movie.
Yeah.
Because of these, you know,
giant spiders.
giant
Spider.
spiders. No, not even giants. Not even giants. Just normal
yeah.
spiders. Just nasty spiders. And then you have Poltergeist, which is a paranormal phenomenon that is well known over in history around the
Yeah.
globe. It's well known. Poltergeist. And this movie scared the shit out of me for years. Poltergeist and Arachnophobia. And they are not necessarily both of them. Poltergeist might be in the horror genre category. Arachnophobia might be in thriller or whatever. And the other one with the hitchhiker, same. So
But if you watch those movies now,
if
are
I
you
if I
this is B movie quality stuff.
this is B movie. Yeah, of course this is B movie. Doesn't matter. Is it horrific? Is it the kind of stuff that's gonna scare you? Because if you're not scared, depending on genre and tone, what is horror then?
Yeah, but like that,
Because if you have 5 people around the table and Max is not scared by that, and Shauna is not scared by that, and this person there is not scared by that, and that person there is not scared by that, how do you portray
I get
horror?
scared if I see something I haven't seen before,
yeah,
like The Ring.
yeah.
Like 40 years old watching The Ring. Never seen that kind of body horror before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, but the
than
ring,
The Exorcist, and it had
the ring. Now we get into uncommon
But
territory because it's
now-
out of your culture.
Mm-hmm.
But
If I watch The Ring now, it's
it's
like,
a ghost
man.
story. It's a ghost story.
But just
Just-
the uncanny
just the-
valley was something
Yeah.
new to me.
It's
The girl
uncanny.
with the
Yeah.
hair over her face.
I
crawling
I
around.
Uncanny
understand.
valley. It's the uncanny. The uncanny valley is something very specific.
I understand with the uncanny.
But see, now I know what
The
uncanny valley is, because
not
in
sure.
3D you have to avoid it if you're
Yeah.
making a
Yeah,
video
exactly.
game.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the uncanny valley is this thing when you do model in 3D and stuff like that and animation. But when we talk about R, we talk about the uncanny. You
Yeah.
don't add the valley. Just point of
I
point
had
of
the- I had
language.
the valley.
But like yeah, like
Is the valley
Lost Highway.
getting deeper, or is the valley
Oh,
like
we
this,
crossed it
or is
now.
it getting like this,
No,
or
we
is it
crossed the
becoming
valley
like
now.
this? We're
Yeah.
like this now.
We're on the other side.
You could
But
hop
when
across now.
when you look at the Lost Highway,
Lost Highway is very scary for me.
Is that
But-
David Lynch?
yeah, it's
Yeah, David Lynch. The dude calls you in a party, say, I'm in your house. I'm
Yeah.
watching your picture right now. It's like, oh man, the first time I saw that, I was like, oh man. So you see, and this is not an horror movie, but
No,
it's
well,
scary as hell.
I
But
think
if
it is
you-
an horror movie, isn't it?
It's scary as hell, but it's not horror.
But after you've
I
seen
consider that
it,
horror.
would it
What?
still
But it's scary, so it might be horror then.
after
You know?
after you've seen the movie and you see it again? Do you still have the same effect? or
No.
because you know
Yes.
how
Not
it
at all.
Oh,
ends?
Not
kind
at
of.
all.
A little
First
bit.
time
because
was-
there's something like very unsettling, right? But the first time you see it, there's something like, and you get like kind of engaged in like engrossed in the movie and stuff like that. And then there's like those things that there's nothing like you say. What's scary about the movie? There's nothing really scary about the movie, but everything is like unsettling, right? Just like everything is like that's the like there's a lot of things that are just uncanny.
Yeah,
And
Eraserhead is
you
like
can't really
that.
put your finger on it. Yeah,
Mhm.
you can't really put your finger on it, but there's always something that's kind of like make you uncomfortable when you're watching the movie. And then when you rewatch it, then you can like pay a little more attention to it. Oh, that's why this guy is so fucking creepy, right? Just
Well,
like and
maybe
then
horror-
so I didn't think
Maybe horror is hard to do because it's just a one shot, and then after you can't go back to it because it's people
it always
ha-
kind of need to refresh itself, right?
you have to reinvent it somehow, or
Yeah.
as a GM you have to introduce it in an original fashion of some sort.
Yeah.
Modernize it a bit, because everyone knows the 1920s Call of Cthulhu stuff.
Yeah, you always and like I made a
It's
video
like a
about that.
meme
Like
now
you know, like
almost.
I made a video about that. Like using the Cthulhu mythos is the less Lovecraftian thing you can do, because Lovecraft made his own mythos to have
Yeah.
something that is unfamiliar and stuff like that. But now everybody's familiar with the mythos, and there's like
Yeah.
fucking plushies of Cthulhu being sold
Yeah.
all the time and everything. Like so you cannot use the Cthulhu mythos if you want to do something Lovecraftian. Now it's just like
There's
it's been
some
like
of that in Alien. There's some of it in The Thing. There's an
same
episode
thing
of
with
Space
same thing in Alien,
1999.
right? Now, like
Mm.
you're doing Alien, it's kind of expected that you're gonna put the xenomorph in there. But another thing with Alien is that it was this we don't know what that thing is. We don't so that there's always so this one thing with horror, it always has to be fresh. It always
Have
has
you
to be
guys
something.
seen Life? You guys,
Yeah.
you talk about Alien. There is a movie called Life with Jake Gyllenhaal and a couple
think
other
I saw that.
well-known. Yeah, and so it's the same premise as Alien. It's like we found this life form somewhere, and we don't know what it is. And it just grows and grows and grows and grows and get better and get better and get better, and then it gets better than us. And then that's the whole idea of the movie. And it for me, it's a horror movie. It's recent. It's
Yeah.
great horror. It's great sci-fi. It's just and it's not Alien, so there's no xenomorph in it. Man, some
Yeah.
people are so anxious about playing RPG, they canceled 24 hours before the session. It is a well-known phenomenon. I did it.
When I
many
used to
times.
prep, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for the game to start. I wanted to play now. I'm prepped. I'm ready. I don't want to wait a week before we actually play the game. I want to do it now.
You want to play right away because
It's-
the
it's fresh
anxiety
in my head.
sometimes.
Yeah.
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 Well, also like I try not to think too much of a game. Like I have, because I don't want to have like stuff that I'm too invested in. Like I want to have a premise. I don't want to have a scenario, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, this
So I
is
just
gonna
want to have,
happen, then this is gonna
yeah,
happen, and then none of it
yeah,
happens
exactly,
during the game.
exactly. And then say, well, I thought I had this cool idea. Now I kind of want to use it. Well, and I'm gonna try to
Yeah.
force it on the player. Like I don't want to do that,
No,
so I try
Nah.
to limit myself, right?
just use it in another game.
Nah, this is the
Exactly.
worst, man. This is the worst. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You want to prep. You want to have a prep for improv. You know,
Yeah,
bullet points or random ideas or
just stay consistent with your setting. Once you start
yeah, the
describing it,
consistency. You have like the starting situation, but it's generic, and
Yep.
then you stay constant. You know, and then the
the
player
first
do the
10 or
job.
15 minutes is just world building, pretty much
Mm.
within the scope of where the characters are. You don't have to info dump the whole third era of the Empire and the Galactic Wars and
Yeah,
all this
and when it
stuff.
comes,
You're not
of
going to
course,
meet any of those people or see any of those armies.
doesn't matter.
And they're
And
not
when it
even
comes
on that
to
homeworld.
horror, when it comes to horror, you need a system that is very simple because you don't want it to get in the way of the feeling. That's why
Yep.
the Jenga tower is so good in Dread. But I played Dread. I don't know if you guys played Dread, but I played
Nope.
Dread. It works, but it's
But once
it's
once
it's,
the
it's
when the tower
minimalistic.
fall,
It,
once the tower fall, doesn't that get you out of the experience?
it kind of does, but the thing is that when the tower falls, the player who made it fall has to narrate his death is in the most gruesome way.
Yeah.
So it's weird because everybody around the table knows the rule. So when the tower falls, everybody starts laughing. So it's not horror.
Yeah.
And then everybody looks at the player who made it fall, and the player has to gruesomely, very
Yeah.
intensely narrate his death in the most interesting way, whilst everybody else is building
But
up the
you
tower
see,
again.
that's
So
part of the
so
problem I have, right? Just like horror is always like tied with comedy, right? It's like we cannot take it seriously when we do horror in the
that's
role playing.
the goofball phenomenon. We need
Yeah,
to
and
make
People
we need to have a conversation about that one day. The
yes,
people can't take
goofball
the D20
the
seriously.
goofball phenomenon. Everybody's goofballing.
but that's what I want to talk about now. Like, how do we make the horror without just like ha ha ha, oh that's so scary, ha ha ha, right? Just like without
Run
like
for
going
it
into
now.
the, yeah, like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I
You're
think
so
like
dead.
first, okay, the thing I would say so far, like that I would say, my idea on that is, first, I don't want you to rely on box text. I don't want you to come in like prepare with gruesome description, and like don't try to don't fucking read me a goosebump story, right? Just like that you prepare and stuff like that, and not like, oh, I'm scared because I'm describe all the entrail are dripping from the shower curtains. We're there to play a game, not there to listen to you like read me your SCP, right? Or whatever it is the
Young
kids
adult
call it
stuff.
now. Yeah. So that'd be one thing. And the other thing I say like, yeah, like I would say don't try to scare the player, try to scare the character, make a situation scary. And I say like in the type of horror to go after, I think where the juice will be, it's not gonna be in the gore. It's not gonna be just in the monster, but it is gonna be in the uncanny. It is gonna be in the unsettling. It is gonna be in like the thing almost look normal, but something is off, right? And now you have to describe what this something is off is, and you have to describe it in a way that's not too much on the nose. And I think that can be hard.
A lot of the horror sessions have the same tone as Final Destination. You guys see that movie?
Mhm.
There's a scene where this irritating blonde, no one likes her. She finally gets hit by a bus. Just out of nowhere, a bus just goes pow. Her body just goes, turns into spray. The audience laughs at that. They're just glad to see her gone. But it's supposed to be kind of horrific. Someone just died in the movie.
What about all the people that say, "Oh, I never want to drive behind a log truck," since I've seen Final Destination? Those people got scared. They got
People laughed at
scared
that
for
one.
life.
People laughed at that one too. Like
Yeah,
watching the log go back and forward. Is she is or isn't she? Oh, I finally got her.
yeah.
What was
Like
it? What was the
Zonalar,
bad
Zonalar
guy's
say,
name?
yeah, like I don't know.
Was it Fate or something? I can't remember.
That'd be a bit on the nose.
Mr. Luck.
Zonarar say, I believe it's misguided to remove all comedy from horror. You need to give player a way to vent or cope because it's horror is exhausting. Comedy is one vent, but does not need to be the only one. Could you
Well, just
could you
do
have
a
this?
short one shot. Do like
Yeah,
a
exactly.
3 hour
Like
one shot.
yeah, and then you have the place to vent afterward
Yeah,
Yeah,
afterwards you can
yeah,
laugh and
outside the
carry
game.
on and
yeah.
go
Horror,
through
horror is
content.
not for long campaigns. Forget about it. In RPG, nah, man. I think horror for RPG is one shots, two shots,
It gets
maybe
draining.
three shots if you have a very dedicated group. If you are a bunch of goth from the 90s in depression, on medication, maybe you can have a campaign about horror. But otherwise,
Do
go
an
for
8 hour
one.
one shot.
Yeah, go for one shot. Because one
What
shot on
about if you?
Halloween kind of thing. No, but last year, what I did a Dread 3 hour one shot zombie apocalypse on Halloween, and it was fun. Nobody laughed. Everybody was scared. Everybody was pissed at the game. I think it was not scary because it was zombies. Zombies is not scary. So everybody was pissed because it was like, fuck, I don't want to die, but this tower
Yeah,
is against me, and there was that relationship towards it. So everybody was engaged in the game in a way that they were trying to survive, because it's a zombie thing. Maybe the genre cut up to the tone kind of thing. But if you go, let's say you ended on a cliffhanger and you say, okay, let's meet in 2 weeks. What are the odds that in 2 weeks everybody's gonna come in to the session in the same mindset? Forget about it. In 2 weeks, you have problems, you have your life, you have stuff, you have and then everybody comes in the second session around. Second session, nobody's at the same spot. So you build the tower or you set up the game, no matter what the game you play, and everybody is not on the same page anymore. The effect
hmm
is gone. You know,
well, like it's gonna be very
it's
hard
a
if
thing.
you
It's a dance. You kind of have to
and if you rely a lot
feel
on
attention.
gimmicks. If you rely a lot on gimmicks, that's gonna be hard to recapture the
Yeah.
second time because it's not new
Oh yeah.
anymore. It's not fresh
Es-
anymore.
Especially if you rely on gimmicks
Yeah,
like game mechanics or
like those
lighting.
10 candle stuff or those
10
like
candles.
the
Yeah, the
tower or
candles,
something like
the
that. Like
incense, the
yeah,
music. You
yeah.
know,
Incense?
Why not?
people utilize everything, man. I use incense. I use music. I use
Especially
light.
so there are VTM LARP that have been going for decades, but VTM, and especially in those LARP, it's not about horror, it's about
VT,
politics.
VTM is not horror, man. VTM
No,
is gothic punk.
it's politics. They're politics. It's a
Politics,
political game. Yeah,
politics
It's Game of Thrones,
do
but
do
vampire.
by guts,
yeah. The
anti-society.
what you say like it wouldn't work or wouldn't work for a long campaign, right? I don't think it would work if you try to do like, oh, it's a zombie everywhere night, or it's like this big scary monster that is after you that's gonna catch you or whatever. I don't think it would work with that for that. But you could have like a more normal feeling games. You make most enemy human, stuff like that, but once in a while you got something that is non-human that you don't know what it is, you don't understand what it is, and you can make it creepy in that way. You can make it scary in that way, right? It's almost human, but something is off, right? I think that'd be the way. You need to go at it sparingly. Are you? Do you like? Have you? Or you ever read or maybe you haven't seen the anime Berserk? No. Oh, okay. You should.
I
It's
don't
very
watch
good.
anime.
You should read the manga. It's even better.
Oh my
I don't.
gosh.
I don't do manga.
I
Me
don't
too.
either. I don't either, but just this one. This one is great.
Mhm.
But it's like it's seemingly like a somewhat like normal fantasy story, but the monster in there are they're not omnipresent, and they're always like kind of like this kind of weird thing, right? So they got this scary vibe. But I think that could work for a
They're
longer
uncanny.
campaign. Yeah, they're like exactly. I think that could work for a longer
Like
campaign.
Spirited Away, the spirits are kind of creepy in that one.
Yeah, and you have to keep a mystery, right? You have to keep it
Yeah.
like you cannot blow your load on
Right.
session one because
It's a
then like
slow reveal.
yeah, like you make it a normal game, and then just
I
once in a
am.
while like you making a normal game, you tone down the fantasy quite a bit because otherwise if there's too much fantasy then it
Mm.
doesn't feel special anymore. Everything goes right. So you tone down fantasy quite a bit. You make it like a historical game or whatever, and then you see this thing that is just fucking weird. You don't know what it is. You manage to survive, to kill it or whatever, or to run away, or it run away. But then like this thing is out there and you don't know what it is, and it's a mystery. And can you
Mm.
keep on living normally? Now you go back to the normal campaign a bit, but now you get this knowledge that well, there's those weird thing out there, right? And at some point, like there's something else weird happening, and I say,
Doesn't
what the fuck is going
Walking
on?
Dead have that too?
No,
An
Walking Dead, you see
episode
the zombie
where
from the start.
I mean,
I know,
Walking Dead is
but I mean, like
everything but
they'll
horror.
don't they go to like parts of the country where there's no zombies and they think, oh, we can rest for a bit here. We can have melodrama. We can talk about
I
raising
didn't
our
watch. I
kids
didn't
here.
watch it all. At some point they go to a prison, some shit like that, and they say, "Oh, we can live in peace now here." And then like and that's where I stopped watching when they lose the prison.
Yeah.
And
You
then they say,
know,
"Well, that idea didn't work." Like say, "Well, you can improve on an idea, right? You can try
Did you
something again."
did you guys ever watch The Night Stalker, that TV show from the 70s,
nope.
early
No,
70s?
nope.
This
Too old, man.
newspaper photographer, each week he's got his camera with his flash bulbs.
Oh, but we saw
He's
the we
trying to
saw,
take
I
pictures
saw
of
I saw the
werewolves and
earlier
vampires.
version of that. I saw the new version from with Jake Gyllenhaal, who's a cameraman who's running to be on the scene before the police and get the best picture. Kind of thing.
But some people thought that show was scary. I could not. I could never
I
get
think I
into it.
think that movie is based on that show, isn't it?
I don't know. I didn't
No,
know there
you
was a
don't
I
know.
movie.
haven't seen it.
You
I
haven't
don't
seen
watch.
Light Stalker? That's good. Jake Gyllenhaal is skinny,
I don't
skinny.
watch. I don't watch much many movies.
Okay, movies, yeah.
I don't
Anyway,
watch many movies or TV
but
shows.
for me, horror in RPG is almost like it's like a fake name. It doesn't work. It's not.
Yeah.
You're not really scared. It's not really horror because we are role playing the experience. Because we are role playing the experience, fear is something that happens to us. So if we are describing everything through conversation, if we are
Yeah.
narrating our own horror, it doesn't make sense.
What if I describe something that makes you like very uncomfortable?
Exactly. So this is where it can happen. So I do think it might happen in glimpses.
Like you you're
Right
trying
now,
to you're trying to picture what I describe,
yeah, and sometimes
and
I
then
have
and
a
then like
weird
it doesn't match.
decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm scared to decide because I have to decide. I'm as a player. Let's say I'm a player. I have to decide. I have to make a decision. If I don't have to make a decision, I'm not scared. You describe something to me, I'm like, okay,
Not scared.
isn't it?
Well, you
You're
have to
right.
make a decision, right?
I know exactly what you mean because the
Or you gonna like
one player's just relaxing, smoking a cigarette, skip me, go to someone else.
yeah.
I'm not scared.
No,
It
but like
doesn't
I'm
make me scared.
describing I get describing some kind of monster that show up before you, right? And I can just say like, oh, it's a vampire. Like you said, like Space Truth is a vampire, not horror, and now like, and that's true because they're too
But how are
familiar
you
and
just
just like
okay, Max? How are you describing it as the GM or as an NPC with the characters?
as a GM.
Because I think it's more scary when the NPC is describing something that happened down in the next village.
I think it can be scary if the NPC foreshadows something, and then there's something come up later on.
Yeah, they don't have the answer. They don't describe everything.
Yeah.
They just say what happened.
Yeah.
They
I don't know,
if the
but
village is there or not.
sometimes it can work also. Like if you're like in this abandoned place, you're in, and then there's like this creature that come in front of you, and
But
then
if
you
a
start
GM is
describing
info
things.
dumping, I'm just, I'm trying not to metagame. I'm not listening to this. My character doesn't know any of this stuff I'm being told right now. I'll find this out on my
Sean,
own.
that's a pain, man.
Yeah.
That's
No,
a
Max,
pain
Max-
because that's
Max doesn't
exactly
info
what's
dump.
happening.
I'm not
That's
saying
happening.
Max is info dumping, but
No, it's not. It's not
99%
about
of GMs
info
do.
dumping, but you can describe a creature, right? Like that, what something that is there,
Oh yeah.
and
Without saying
yeah, and then like the player does have a choice to make for his character, right?
Yeah.
Do you run or do you try to fight it, right? That's a
Yeah.
choice already.
I
That's
think
two choices.
I think the problem is also
Let's talk to it.
I think the problem also lies in what every player or every person around in the group finds scary. For example, I'm in a Cthulhu game right now. There is a
Yeah.
scene where there is a tongue, like a tongue,
Yeah.
coming out of a book, trying to reach at me.
Yeah.
That's creepy right there.
That's creepy. That's nasty. It was described well,
Yeah.
and it was supposed to be an intense scene, and it was. But as a player in that campaign, 5 sessions before, I was scarier in a scene where a woman described to me my past that she was not supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
That was scarier.
And I can tell you
more intense than a tongue coming out of the book.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. I would feel the same way as you do on that.
I was like,
and I think,
how do you know that? I was like,
and I think most people would feel the same way if they're in character, right? Or
yeah.
I don't know, maybe not if they're maybe not if they're character, because seeing a tongue out of a book would be pretty scary in real life. Like if you see
I was like,
on the tip of the tongue. On the tip of the tongue, I would just briefly mention there's a dead baby's head on the tip of the tongue. Just to add body horror.
That is a Silent Hill trick. That is a Silent Hill was really about that weirdness.
Okay.
But what
would be in Fallout 3.
What I was saying is like the book, the tongue coming out of the book, right? That's clearly a fantastical stuff, right? You don't feel threatened by that because it's clearly not real.
Yeah.
And it's not subtle. Like I think horror. That's what I'm talking about. The uncanny. Like horror for me, like lie a lot in the subtlety. Like when I was mentioning like the Lost Highway thing, you look this short guy, right, and makes you feel uncomfortable every time he's on camera. And at first watching, you cannot tell why. You're just like, what's wrong with that guy? You don't, and you notice something wrong, right? But you don't know, right? And you got those people sometime in life. You got this vibe, right? Their sheer presence is sending shiver down your spine, right?
I used to people watch at malls or the beach or whatever, and I'd see someone and their aura is just totally different from everyone else's, and it's like, stay away from this guy.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good comment there by Space Rolly. It's a maybe a user error, I guess. We're conflating the feeling of horror with the genre of horror in media.
That's
a very interesting. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting comment. It's true. I think in a much more, and like I think that's maybe a bit the distinction you were saying when you talk about like horror is a tone, it's not a genre. And I think that touched that, right?
I'm always told that horror is not a genre.
Yeah, it's not a genre.
Because you can have horror in Western,
everything,
in fantasy, in sci-fi.
The first season of Star Trek is horror.
Yeah.
You can have horror in different genres.
The Man Trap. You got the girl with the suction cups on her fingers, and she's sucking the salt out of the dude's face.
Yeah.
Very first episode.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's scary as hell. That shit is nasty. Imagine You have your father, your sister, your lover, your best friend, your colleague, and then you look at them, and then they're not themselves. And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, are you yourself? Are you not yourself? You're not sure. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's nasty. And
Does the
it's old as
sigh?
hell. It's an old
Does the
idea.
scream at the end in
The
the
do you
color version?
Shauna? Do you remember the village where there's a bunch of children with white hair?
I saw that so long ago, but yeah,
You
I
know
know
what I'm
what you mean.
saying? And they have kind of like white hair and red
Yeah,
eyes, and they are like coming out of the same generational. I don't remember
yeah,
exactly. Oh man,
yeah.
that,
Black
that's
and
not
white movie.
that's not fun. We don't want that. We don't want that. And they have some kind of power over people. They can control
Yeah,
people, and then they can
yeah,
take over the village. Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
man.
Off grid gaming, I say, who's playing the character? You can't help but inject yourself into every character that you play. I think you can help. You can like the more you do it, the more you can
What
distantiate
does
yourself from the
inject
character
mean?
you're playing. What?
I have. I would like to see players inject themselves into their character, but
I
It
like I like
99%
to
of the
see the
games
player
they
injecting
don't
the
do that.
character into themselves.
I see
it
characters.
depends, Shauna,
I see players playing their character sheet.
Or
because
playing them while they play themselves, right?
do you remember there was a guy called Emergent Play, Shauna, back in the
Yeah, I
day?
was watching one of his videos before we went live.
All right,
He was
so
he
this
was
guy,
talking about player agency and how it gets lost.
he talked also about a concept called bleeding.
Yeah,
Bleeding is when you bleed into your character. So, for example,
there
you
you go.
everybody knows about the girlfriend's GM
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you have five people, and there's the girlfriend GM, and there's the GM, and there's other people. Let's say the girlfriend and the GM, they had a fight before the game, and
yeah.
so the girlfriend is playing a sorcerer, and so everybody's playing at the table, and everybody's having fun, and then eventually the girlfriend wants to signal something to her boyfriend, who is the GM, into an NPC, and she's using her character to express her emotion. So she's
Hmm.
like, yeah, I don't know, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So whenever somebody is expressing himself through his character, is it bleeding? You know,
Yep.
if I am frustrated, let's say I'm player number one, and there is player number two right there, and I am frustrated. Jean-Francois, me, is frustrated against Max. Max is playing this character there, and I'm playing through my character, and I'm saying to Max, but in character, to his character, and I'm saying like that I don't like the way he behaves, and I don't like the way he acts and stuff like that.
That's like basically metagaming, right?
You know what I'm saying? But it's called bleeding. You bleed into your
Yep.
character kind of thing. The the,
Yep.
the, the word is bleeding. That the emergent play
For
is
me, like
not
what the
like
thing
that.
I talk
But
a lot about. One thing I talk a lot about is like this difference between like people talk about the difference between empathy and sympathy, and a lot of people don't understand what it means. Like I make it short here. Empathy is being able to understand others' feeling, but and understanding that other people are not you and they're not feeling like you in the situation that you were being, if that you're in the same situation. Sympathy is projecting your own feeling into other people. Sympathy is asking the question, how would you feel if you were in that situation? That's sympathy. Empathy is like, well, how these people in that situation would feel, and you cannot shortcut to your own feeling. And I think RPG are great to develop the empathy and put yourself, and I think that's why like a lot of women have a harder time with that, because women are not good at empathy. Women are great at sympathy because they, and when you're like, because they're evolved to work in the in group, right? And when you work in the in group, you're with people that have the same culture as you, have a similar experience than you. So
They
projecting
want
your
to
own
make
feeling onto
relationships.
them, well, projecting your own feeling onto them is going to be good enough. Empathy is to deal with the enemy, is to deal with the people from the out group, right? You have to understand how those guys are gonna react when you go to war with them, right? If you try to provoke them, or if you, that's the difference, the evolutionary difference.
If
So
if a
empathy is really
guy's
for men.
if a guy's role playing a chick, there's going to be some bleed through probably.
Yeah,
You know,
because it's
there'll
hard
be
to
the chick scratching his balls and stuff and chewing tobacco. Oh, that's right. That's me. Okay, I'm playing a chick, so she won't be doing that.
that's a good example. But you can also have an example where you, let's say Jean-François or Max has been
Yeah.
through some stuff in his life, and then
Yep.
the character goes through some similar stuff, and then he's projecting it. He's
Yep.
projecting it. So I do think that it can be a vessel for that.
Or
But
what
I
I
do
think
think it's
I
bad
think
form as well. I
the
think it's
the
bad form. I
computer
think you have
guy.
to.
There's in the old days there was always a computer guy in my game sessions, and he wants to do his Windows or DOS programming
Oh
in the
man,
game
are you
session,
serious?
which doesn't even use those kinds of
Are you
computers.
serious?
And the
Give me
players
some
like
example.
like the player that argues with the GM. Well, actually, computers don't work that way. I'm a
Oh,
scientist. I have a PhD from
yeah,
MIT. I
well,
know how
no.
artificial intelligence doesn't work like that. This is back in the 80s.
I'm talking more about emotions, though. It's not a bad example because that's like you know people who.
Like everyone knows how to use a hammer, right? Everyone knows how to use a screwdriver, right? There's not much bleed through there.
Hmm,
If you're playing a human,
yeah.
they're gonna know how to use a can opener.
But imagine you stay in character. Nobody knows you're talking about your work,
Yep.
and then you
Oh, I was talking
imply
about the
some
80s.
stuff.
I was talking about the 80s.
no
No one role played in the 80s.
one role playing. Come on.
There's like
man.
maybe 3 people that role played in the 80s.
Oh, come on.
I don't even know if they're still alive or not.
Mm.
Hmm.
Anyway, my point is on that is that you should try. It's a good exercise, and it's
I
something
did
that
that.
that
I'm.
RPG can bring to you to separate yourself from the like be somebody that you're not, right, and react have
Is it
emotion
is
that you wouldn't have.
Max? Do you think that what you just described is where people start to use RPG as therapy?
Well, it's not as therapy.
Or
It's not
relive.
RPG as therapy, but
When
RPG can be an engine for human growth or for human development. Quote
I know. Yeah.
J. Scott Garraby.
Some
I do believe
players
that.
like to reenact or relive childhood trauma.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you an
It's
example
interesting to them.
that I've
It's
been
something
through
they know,
recently.
they're familiar with.
I
Maybe they were in
used
a car
to.
accident, and so their characters in a car accident in the game sessions. They're describing how it feels.
That can
Phantom
be
Yeah, that's
pains
weird.
after the
That's a weird
hospital
fetish.
visit. You have phantom pains.
that can be a catharsis. That's for sure.
Yeah.
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 But I don't think it's the right place to do it with your buddy at the table, right? Just like
Especially if they
whatever
are
the
not
therapist.
aware of it and
Yeah.
they not necessarily want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Or they want to tell the other players something that happened to them in real life through their character. Just so they
Because
know,
some
so
people
just so
come
the
to.
other players learn what must have felt for them.
Oh man, yeah, for sure.
I don't know if that's therapy, but it's just a coincidence.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. It's interesting, isn't
Or the
it?
alcoholic in the group who's playing an alcoholic in the game, but they're going to the meetings. They've been sober for 12 years, and they're gonna let you know this.
With the
sometime.
character, the player is
The player in
sober.
real life has been
Oh.
sober.
I think the opposite is more interesting.
or anything. Someone who goes through grief, or someone who goes through child abuse,
Yeah.
or someone who goes
Or
through
maybe
whatever.
But
Yeah.
I don't want that on my table, to be honest.
alien
Like
abduction. They want to
therapists
roleplay that.
can use roleplay for those things. Go there, right?
Yeah, well, some people do
There's
it
regression,
without
there's
even
therapy,
on the.
regression, all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't belong in RPG.
Something that I realized. I don't know if you guys have realized that. Sometimes you come up with something. You're a GM. You come up with an idea for a situation, and NPCs, and then you're like, "Oh shit, this is something I saw in a movie. I didn't realize it." Or shit, this is something I encountered in my life. I never realized it, but afterward, you're like, and I was inspired by it. I put it in the game.
Sometimes also it happened that you think of something and you present it to your player and say, "Oh, that was kind of like in that movie," and you never heard that movie before.
Or
So like, yes,
music.
Oh,
If you play
yeah.
a certain song, it takes you back 20 years, 30 years, and you
Yeah.
remember what you were
Oh, yeah.
doing when you first heard that song.
Yeah.
But if you play
Is
music in
yeah.
an RPG session, players will think, "Oh, I like this song. I was doing this back
Yeah.
then," and they start
I
role
don't
playing
like
that instead of their character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like music in role playing session because I find it very distracting. But I know a lot of player like it, and I don't say like don't use it. That's a me thing. I know that. I find it very distracting because then I start listening to the music too much.
It reminds you of a girlfriend you broke up with, and you don't want to remember that during the game session. Now you're pissed and you're
Oh,
playing
Shana,
an
why you
angry
went to go
character.
there?
Oh no! Oh no!
That happens a lot sometimes.
Yeah, of course, definitely. That's why the best music, because I like music for a role play session in person. The best
Yeah.
music is without lyrics.
Yeah,
Just
instrumental, but even instrumental,
Instrumentals, yeah,
even
instrumentals
instrumental.
and instrumentals that are not from movies, because it will
I
bring
couldn't
the
do that.
movie into the session
I
too.
mean, I kind of like music guy,
Uh-oh.
right?
Oh yeah.
And so even
Band,
even
marching
instrumental
band,
music can
jazz
will
band.
distract me. What? What are you saying, son?
I was saying marching band, jazz
Yeah.
band.
yeah. I'm a jazz guy, but so even instrumental music will distract me because I like listening to the conversation in the music, right? But I
Yeah,
know not
instrumental,
everybody.
but not from a movie.
Yeah,
Check.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good
Noted.
point. Yeah, or a video game, I guess. Like the FromSoft game got like great fucking soundtracks, but then we're gonna bring back player there. Yeah. Anyway, so what else do we have to say about horror? Oh, there was some. I starred some comments in chat.
Go ahead.
No
Uh,
Lord of the Rings movie music.
nope. Like in horror movie, if the logical in character decision to make is to walk down the path where the circle is, but as out of character, you know what the path and that the character will die.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the
That's how I
character
do it.
die. Yeah,
That's what your character would do.
yeah.
That makes me think of those franchises in Hollywood, like Halloween or Jason or Freddy. You
Yeah.
know, you
The
those
girl
are,
that's naked who goes out into the woods.
you know, in
Noise.
advance
Who's out there?
that she's not gonna die or he's not gonna. You
Yeah.
know it. You know it
Yeah.
already.
You got
And
plot
then you
armor
go
or like
through the movie.
stardom armor.
It's plot armor as well.
Yeah.
It's like, why are they doing this? It's the idiot plot.
I that's why I think that horror as a tone, let's say horror in as a genre and as a tone, because some people call it a genre as well. So let's say horror as an idea, as a phenomenon, or as an
Well,
experience.
You want a plot, not a story, but a plot, at least something.
You need
Something your
something
character would do
unsettling.
when
You
confronted
you
with
need
something.
something that's hard to deal with, that makes you feel disempowered. So you have these two elements that are very important. You have, like, I don't know what to do. You need that, and you also need something that is just hard to look at. So this is one of the things with Cthulhu. It's like you don't want to look at it, because when you look at it, it's just I don't want to look at that. So sometimes it's an ethical decision.
And you're trying not to metagame either.
As well. That's the problem with RPG. That's why I think that
Because you as
horror
the
in
player
RPG.
think, oh, this is just some slime green monster. But your character's never seen one before.
Yeah.
Should there be a final girl in a horror RPG session? That's good with the Japanese genre of horror.
What's a
Because
final girl?
Because final, in Silent Hill is a Japanese game. Some protagonists are female. At the end, there is a female villain.
Like a soul survivor? Or
I don't know what the Japanese has with that. Maybe because
say it was a 80s slasher trope, right? It was like a
of course, yeah.
But I think like in TTRPG or RPG, I said, well, if it happens, it happens.
Okay, so
If
the
it
girl
doesn't,
from Halloween,
doesn't,
is she the
right?
final girl?
So
It's not
is
something you can plan for.
so is horror in the RPG hobby something that happens if it happens?
No, for the final girl.
No, but in general. I mean, in general. The
Oh,
question is in general. Because if it's something that happens, if it happens, it makes sense. Like tonight, we had a horrific session.
yeah. I like that. You know
We
what?
never planned for it, but that's
Yeah,
what happened. You know.
yeah. I like that. Play- Like
I'll have to look up this
so
final
somehow like the
girl thing.
character adding
Never
up to
heard of it.
something. You never heard it? Yeah.
Never heard of it. Never knew of it. I mean, I probably know what it is, but just not what it's called.
Yeah, just like everybody died, but this final girl like survived, and she
You know,
managed to kill the
if you
baddie.
So
go,
the girl from Halloween,
Yeah.
Tony Curtis's kid, she lives,
Yeah,
and so she gets to be in the next movie. Is that final girl?
yeah, it
I
is.
forget what her name is.
she was there at the beginning.
Like
Isn't
everyone
final?
dies, and then the rest of the movie is just her
Yeah, the
trying to
final girl
survive.
usually is there at the beginning, no?
Okay, so she survived.
I think she's
The
introduced. She's introduced
surviving.
at the beginning.
The
Yeah.
main character.
It's called the
Main
survivor.
character.
If I got that right,
It makes sense.
uh,
Makes sense.
It might
yeah.
be a translation from Japanese.
If everyone dies without a message, it's not really a story. It's just Evan you witness. The story.
message.
Man, you have a good commenter on your chat.
You don't want a message
Yeah.
in your game.
No, you don't want to like the message you figure out later on. Like
Message.
you say like might as well just watch a car crash on YouTube, right? But that's the thing. If you witness events, then you get a story when you retell those events, right? And that's what we do in RPG as well. Like we don't have like a message. Like I'm not trying to teach you a lesson. I'm not trying to tell you a story.
No.
There's some stuff happening. We figure it out together, and then there's a story that come out of it.
After the game
Yeah,
session is
you know, you
probably
can
the
have a
best part.
session when you can have a session where there's like 5 people and there's like 2 players that got horrified that day. They got horrified. They went through some stuff and they felt it and they had that experience. So for them, the tone was horrifying. You know, so they went through
they might
horror.
even say that real life stuff happened to them, and it was so close to what happened to them in real life, and they were just on the edge of their seat, reliving the stuff.
Yeah.
And they were in there. They were in the moment, and it's in their head, man. It's in their head.
Yeah, yeah, crap.
Yeah.
Was saying I think the horror wears off with the novelty. Yeah, I think that's very true. A zombie outbreak might start off as horror. Even that, I think that's been overdone. So now, like, zombie outbreak. All right, you know how it goes. But if we are talking about the years of human survival after the zombie outbreak, I think that's more thriller. But also, I think in those cases, then the horror can come from other places, like the other human you encounter and the way that they adapt to this thing. And now, like you see the human nature being turned into something that is shouldn't be, and that can be horrifying in itself, wouldn't it be?
No, of course, definitely, especially with the zombie genre. Zombie is not necessarily horror. That's why we have zombie comedies and zombie drama. Zombie drama is about the human drama, people dying because of political circumstances or ethical and moral decisions. And then you have the zombie comedy where you have zombies that are just stupid, and then humans making joke about
Dawn
it.
of the Dead is a comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Zombieland is like I love it. I love the Zombieland movie.
Zombieland, yeah, exactly. So that's why the zombie is amazing.
Yeah,
because it shows us, this idea that it's not necessarily about the monster.
Nope.
It's about something else.
Yeah.
I like it when you know the person before they turned into a zombie, and they were one of the NPCs.
Yeah.
And you're worried if they're gonna change overnight, or if they're even infected. Maybe
or when you lose the most morally good character to the zombie. So you have like the best, someone who is seen as the holy,
the player's
saint.
all white.
Yeah, exactly. And then he gets chewed up by zombies, and you're like, oh!
That's the thing we know about the zombie apocalypse thing. Like, if you want to make it good, you have to make it about the survivor, right? And about how they the zombie are not interesting in itself. Like characters are what's interesting, right? That's in every story, in every fucking
like-
medium. Like that's where
Great white
we
sharks aren't
relate to
interesting.
character.
But if there's one nearby and you're in the ocean, now it means something. Just one shark, not a whole zombie horde of.
But it's not. But it's not even about the shark. It's about like the people reacting to the shark, right?
Yeah,
That's what
the
we
shark
connect
is-
with.
the shark is just instinct mechanism.
What about you mentioned earlier, Jeff, the Shining. What's
That's a slow
horrific
burn.
about The Shining?
What's horrific about
How
The
would
Shining?
you produce that in a role-playing game?
Okay, that's a good idea. What I remember with Shauna, we had a session. I utilized the movie. So you talk about Shining with Shauna. Well, I utilized a movie called Event Horizon. So I inspired myself from claustrophobia of a movie that is on a spaceship with gore effect and people being together and stuck in this situation. I inspired myself from Event Horizons, a movie that a sci-fi movie that Sean and you guys probably know.
I
If
didn't
I
watch
use-
that movie until last year.
Are you serious? So the session we played together was inspired by it. So it probably wouldn't have been scary if you would
Maybe.
have seen the movie before because you would have
Maybe.
recognized it. Yeah. Anyway,
Even if I knew, he's borrowing from that movie, I won't metagame. I'll still stay in character anyway.
that
'Cause
means
maybe you'll do a twist. I'm hoping
you're
you'll do a twist.
you're a good character, but it was not inspired. It was some aesthetic idea. Anyway, to answer your question, Max, what I would do is I would try to create a claustrophobic situation because in the movie The Shining, they are kind of caught up into a snowstorm. You know what it is. You are in North Canada. You know what snowstorm can be claustrophobic sometimes. So I would try to bring that in, and then I would utilize aesthetic imagery, and I would let if I want to be fair right now in 2024, what I would do is I would describe imagery, like images in situations, and I would just leave the situation open. So I would be, for example, in The Shining, there is a scene where the elevator comes in, opens the door, and there's blood coming in. This is amazing scene. So I would describe a scene like that, and I would leave it open. So I would describe the door open, the blood comes in, and then I would shut up and let the player, and I would go like this. Listen to the player
I remember
do what they have to do. Now they know I'm not there as a GM to help them. They know I'm not there as a GM telling them what to do. I'm not there as GM telling them what to feel, and what they know about that is just door opens, you are in the hallway and there's blood coming out.
Am I standing?
And then I shut up. Silences are so powerful. I would just use silences. So strong images in description and long, lingering silences. And when you have a group of people with their egos and their psyches and their personality, and now they know that the GM stopped talking, in character, they know that they have to speak. They have to take the space. So it's like, what am I doing with this? And it's just
I turn my big wheel around.
I don't know. They're gonna have to do something. They're gonna have to do something because sciences is powerful.
Like I think in The Shining, a lot of it is the isolation. But then there's also like this kind of like haunted thing happening that you don't is that a hallucination or the ghost? We don't know
exactly.
It's unclear. But it's also about there's a lot of thing about this thing about going insane, like role-playing insanity, right? That's can be like a fucking talk on its own. But people like don't get it. Like when you go insane, oftentimes you can kind of tell.
But you're not insane, Max, so you don't know.
When the wife looks at his, you're
not insane. Max. So you don't know. That's the thing. So nobody knows. That's why this idea of role playing insanity is. I mean, you can have some mental problems. So you can have depression, you can have anxiety, you can have paranoia somehow a little bit. Maybe you experienced psychosis on drugs when you
Yeah.
were younger. You know, but you don't know
Everyone's on
what
drugs
being
do the same thing.
insane is on a daily basis. Just
Like you see, when at some point you interact with people around you, right? And at some point, like you realize that your life experience seems to be different than theirs, and that you got those pulsions and stuff like that that you need to fight, right? And I was telling that to Justin earlier, right? You just you get all this rage inside of you, and you go to bed at night, and you have a hard time, like you just want to fucking like get up and go and find people and like open them up, right, and take their skin off, go deep with the show, right? And you shouldn't, that's bad, but you got this pulsion inside of you, and you go to bed and you can't fucking sleep because that's all you can think about, right? And at some point you say, oh, fuck it, I'm gonna go and move out in the woods. And then you move out in the woods, like, right, and then you can get some peace. You still have those pulsion, but there's nobody around, so like even if you falter and you fall, you won't go out and murder people. At some point, the lot around your house, your cabin, start getting sold, and now like there's house being built there, and now you don't have this. Not only there's people around that you can go find and flail, but now nobody would be around to stop you. So now what do you do? Do you go back to the city? Do you go back? But you got this dread of like having this thing inside of you that you're fighting, that it's just a matter of time at some point that you won't be able to white knuckle it. You won't be able to, and you can't really like talk to people about that because like people are gonna think you're crazy, and maybe rightfully so. But so there's a dread there that come.
And then the doorbell rings, and it's the
Hello,
neighbor.
neighbor.
Jehovah Witness neighbors want to borrow some sugar,
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
you
Come,
can
come
think
on in.
about is
Come on in.
cutting her open to see how she ticks.
Yeah.
What makes her work?
So but there's, you know what I mean. Like there's an aura there that's very internal and kind of a slow burn as well because something that
Yeah,
needs to be
slow
built up
burns.
around. Mm,
But yeah, at the beginning of the game, you decide what's the theme, the tone, the setting.
yeah. But I think like there's
Is there
something there with the
electricity, or is there phone service? That kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, but to answer your question about The Shining is just for me because Shining is not when you maybe it was scary in this it's a 70 movie.
Yeah.
Before
Maybe
they
it was
yeah.
scary in the late 70s. Yeah. But today after we've seen so many shit in 2024.
But is it scary
Shining
because
Shining is an art movie now. Shining is like a
yeah.
it's like an artistic thing. It's an aesthetic thing.
Compared to
You
now,
know.
it's classic, best stuff
You
ever.
know,
I
yeah,
think I
of
think it can
course,
still be scary, but it's not like the twins, the little twins that are scary. It's not the elevator that opened the door with the blood that is scary. What is
No,
scary is the going
it's
insane and
yeah,
harming your family, right? Having
yeah.
madness drive you to harm your family. When you see that,
Being caught up, yeah, on that mountain with the snow, not being able to escape
There's
with
no
someone
phone.
you love and someone you trusted, not being able to trust
And there was a
yeah,
anymore.
CB
yeah.
It's
radio
If you,
in
yeah, I
the
guess if you see that,
truck or
like I was
something.
seeing it from the point of view of Jack Nicholson, but I guess you can see it from the point of view of the wife and kid as well. Of the wife, I guess the
yeah.
kid is like too
The
young,
kid,
Can
they
maybe,
never
but
yeah,
explain the
exactly. You
kid.
can see it the way you want. Yeah.
mm,
The audience can decide for themselves what they think about the kid. Because all he says is red room.
yeah,
But if I am a GM, I would just describe these things and leave a deep silence. And the use of
Yeah,
silence, the pacing,
see,
pacing is
just like the
huge.
movie. Same
Yeah, just like
pacing
the
as the movie
movie. The
used.
movie, that's exactly what it does. It's
that,
just red rum, and then there's nothing happening afterwards. You
you
have
see
this
that
long corridor with nothing in it.
Yeah.
The
that's
weird
something that we don't
carpet.
see a lot in role playing game, right? Oh, your son look at when you never have your children with you,
Were you about to say, "Look at you"?
No, like because like like the little kid, right? He's
Yeah,
there and starting saying red rum and stuff like
yeah,
that, right? And doing his finger
yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
like if you were in a role playing session, you would describe that like, but that implied that this character got his young son with him, right? And
Yeah.
that's something we never do. You never in a situation like, oh, that's your character, and you have your not your young like 7 or 8 year old son with you, and then at some point you see your son looking at you weird and doing something strange,
Now
and
you
then
say you. Now you're utilizing you a lot.
well, because I'm just telling us, I'm I'm telling a story like
I
of a
know, I know, but
It's
we,
a
we,
habit.
we were talking about that. We were talking about the you.
yeah, but like
So
I
so
will,
you have so there so you can, instead of saying your son, you can call him by his name and say, I don't know,
yeah,
Gregory.
I'm just taking shortcut here because like I'm just like saying what I'm saying
I know.
here is that we
Yeah.
don't use, we never, we almost, I don't think I ever saw that a session where the a character's young family is with him, right?
Oh, that
Usually
that's
they're
that's
at
that's
usually they're
important.
far from home,
Yeah,
and they're a
Yeah,
contact that
a lot of
might
people create
call
character that
you.
are fucking. How do you say orphelin? Orphelin? How do you say that?
yeah, like orphan. Yeah,
Orphans. A lot of
yeah,
people create orphans for
yeah.
that
They have
reason.
no family, no friend, no roots, no, yeah.
That's
Which,
that's bad. That's bad.
well, it's bad, but in a sense also like if you play like an adventure and stuff like that, yeah, I guess maybe those kind of people would be more likely to become adventurer. Then it's gonna be like a job for broken people and people that have nothing to lose and stuff like that, right? If you have a happy family at home, well, you just stay in the field, like you don't go put your life on the line all the time for stupid shit.
I either play a single dude or a divorced dude,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's my experience.
But
So
if you were to do that, right, you're just like, oh, your father with a son, and now like the son becomes something important, and if the son something weird happened to the son, now you get scared for a different reason, right?
the
One thing
son
that
you didn't know
happens in
you
our
had, the son you never knew you had, and now you're concerned about their safety. All of a sudden, you have this father, these emotions,
Fatherly instinct. Yeah,
instant dad.
because
Go
if
save
you,
me.
if you always create characters that has no family, no friends, no link to anything,
yeah,
it will always be the same story.
yep.
But if you
Pretty
create
much.
it pretty much, you know.
That's why I do one shots, because they're not worth doing for a campaign
There you go. Yeah.
unless I die and make a new character.
And if you
Then I can role
create
play something else.
if you create characters that have lots of friends and lots of family and lots of characters and lots of backstories, then it's too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it ends up being always a little bit of that,
Usually,
where
usually you talk to
you
the
have these
ex-wife.
singular characters.
You get the
Yeah.
message from the ex-wife, but it's from 30 years ago. That's how long it took for the signal to reach your planet.
And that is also part of the hobby, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a safety net, as a safety space where you create these characters that are empty, a little bit empty. And so what are you rely on to? Addiction. So we're going to see a lot of alcoholics, a lot of addicted to
Well,
substances.
that's what you do when you have nothing in your life, right?
Then you're gonna
I
be
know something about
creating,
that.
just like me. I just like I did in the COC Call of Cthulhu campaign. I mean, I created a character who was about to die because I had nothing else to do. I'm like, I'm so alive, so I created a character who was about to die, and I realized that
I
that's
have
not
cancer.
original. That's not original. That's not original at
Well,
all. That's just because
oftentimes those
I try to do something that's gonna be scary for me. I want a background that is scary. I'm in a horror game. What's the background's gonna be? Okay, so the guy is gonna have to die somehow.
Wow, what do you mean? Like you have cancer or some shit like that?
The character has leukemia, exactly, cancer. So
Yeah,
in the 30s, 1930s. So he's gonna
but
die
then also like I
someday.
mean like isn't like like thing gets scary because you're afraid to die oftentimes, right? I get
It's
scared because I'm afraid to live.
I
But
don't know. I wanted him to be weak. My
yeah,
dice, because I roll randomly, and my results were so low that I was like, I don't know what to do. So he's gonna be dying.
yeah. Well,
I
that's
roll
interesting.
randomly, and the results were so
Yeah.
low physically. I was
But
like, I
that's
don't know what to, you know.
that can be interesting. That can be interesting to play. It's
It can
certainly
be
gonna.
interesting, but it's a
I,
cliche. It's just
it's
like
gonna.
anything
Well,
else.
it's not that cliche. Don't be too hard on yourself. But it brings something also that it's interesting to think about how this guy that again is not you, hopefully,
Mhm.
that is not you, he would react in different way in situation that if you were there, right?
Of
Eh,
course, of
because
course. Yeah, you're right.
that's gonna taint is so that those are interesting to you're not just thinking like how would I react if I was in that situation. You say how would this guy react if it was in that situation, and now you get to
But
experience that.
I agree with you, and I think it's fair. But what about just creating a guy who has a wife and children and is
Yeah.
perfectly healthy
That
and
that raised the stake, right? Especially when you do horror
oh
game.
yeah,
Time you're
in
gonna
a
be like
horror game, man,
this random,
how do
yeah,
you how do
random
you
guy, this random guy that end up in
man?
this in this horrific situation.
Hmm, yeah.
If you have something waiting back at home, or if something that is maybe even with you and now that is threatened by this horrific situation, that changed the stake quite a bit.
Hmm. Oh, you're right. You're right.
But
And,
we
and
never
it
see
can,
that.
I would never see that.
Maybe
And I
it's
would,
maybe
and I go ahead.
maybe
Go
there's a
ahead.
taboo about like putting like children in danger even if the game like I don't know maybe some people are uncomfortable with that, which I can understand, but
Yeah,
Maybe,
I don't do
maybe.
kids anything happening to kids.
yeah, no, there you go.
No
I
repeat, no
usually
repeat.
don't go there neither. Yeah, I usually don't go
I go
there
there,
neither.
but
It depends on the game you're
If
playing
the
as
kid's
well.
dead, they're usually they died before the game started.
oh
You know,
really?
like the ghost kid,
Oh,
the
yeah,
zombie kid.
I put kids in danger and I kill them in game if it happened, but uh I don't know, maybe I'm
That's
just
social
a
contract.
heartless
No,
bastard.
I can do it. No, but I can do it. I did it. I did it in a vampire game recently, but
Oh,
uh, I would not go for that for fun kind of kind of
yeah.
thing. I don't know. It's just
Well, what else fun has to do with it with anything? Zon, Zon at a comment earlier, like an example, like the plane crashes into the ocean. You barely survive with the life vest floating to the surface. You and a handful of other characters floating in endless
it's a
expanse.
good. That's a good starting situation for something interesting.
Yeah,
If you want to do a one shot that is character based, that is hard and tough and suspense thriller, that's a really good premise. I don't know what system I would use to do
that would
it.
need to be like very character based because you're basically just
Oh
floating
man,
with your life vest
you're
in
not
the
gonna use
ocean.
much mechanic. You're not gonna use much mechanic. You're floating in with your life vest in the sea, so it's just
And if you were talking about like disempowerment, right? You're very disempowered and then that kind of situation. You basically like, what can you do? What? Like, hey, I guess I'm floating around. Then it's your turn again. What you do? Well, like maybe I'm gonna try to kick my feet a bit. I don't
it's
know.
a very it's a good premise. It's a very good. If you are a bunch of good role players who want to push
But
your role playing skills, that's
you
a
know when I
good
was
idea.
talking about like taking like the difference between like taking player agency versus taking character agency in in that context, you could give all the player agency that you want to the player, right? Like they cannot like they cannot just invent a boat, obviously, right? But you can give them like a lot of player agency. They're free to control the character, but the character is just floating in the ocean, so the character have very little agency, right? So the character is that like you don't disempower the player. You don't have to take control about away from the player, but the character is in a situation where, well, what can I do, right? And then I'm floating around. I'm gonna try to kick my leg a bit to get closer to this other guy next to me, and then maybe we can hold each other and not be alone. I guess at least, right? And then you get into a fight with him.
All right, you need a game that has mechanic to structure that experience. Otherwise, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to be longer than 2 hours or 3 hours, maybe. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah,
It's
and
gonna be a bit,
you probably need a lot of time skip and shit like that. Right.
and you're gonna need a lot of good ideas and
Yeah,
good backstories and
but that'd be like a very quite the challenge. And if you want to do that, I'd say like don't bail out after 5 minutes and say, "Oh, you find a structure in the middle of the ocean." I think if you want to do that, you need to go like all in, all in. Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, there you go. Zon say, I play a guy who has a wife and kids. Is an elf knight. Most kids are adult or teenager, half elf now. I just need to find my kidnapped wife and save her. There you go. But what if happened like oh, your kids are adult now, so that doesn't count. That doesn't really count. Yeah. Du-du-du-du. Delta Green requires your character to have a bond with someone. Yeah, to be your safe space and eventually detach from. Yeah, those are good. Those are good mechanics to add.
I never played Delta Green. I know about it a little bit.
It's not
I've
my.
read about it a little bit, but it's cool. It's kind of complicated. It's not an easy game.
Yeah, it's not really my genre. I think, but yeah. Anything else about like this topic?
I do think that if we make a synthesis of what you just said, I
Yeah.
think that it's hard to roleplay horror. It's hard to railroad horror. It's not something that you can predict in advance. I do think it's something that is emerging. I think it depends on with whom you play with and how you want to play it, the game you play as well, the kind of mechanics to structure the experience. I think that it's something that's not the GM that produces. I think it's something that the players kind of buy into. So it's very very hard to describe, and it's very hard to achieve in
Yeah.
this hobby. I think it's kind of like an event that happens sometimes, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you remember it. You remember it for your rest.
Oh, you
rest of your
remember it
life.
for a while, yeah, because you're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
fuck, I was scared.
When you got scared in that game. Oh man, I got so scared. I was so scared there.
You know
Yeah.
that, and you don't know what you're scared about.
Yeah.
Is it the character that was scared? Is it you that was scared for the character?
Or through
Like
the
Shauna
character.
mentioned,
Yeah.
yeah. Or you can be scared through the character, but you also can be scared as a player for
Yeah.
the character. That's another thing as well. And
Yeah.
and some people
There's-
don't get there neither.
There's some
You know?
characters I have hard time not metagaming. Like if I play an astronaut, who's got a wife and kid on Earth, I'm an astronaut in orbit. I encounter an alien race. They take over my body. I still look the same, but I'm basically an alien. And I come back to Earth. I don't mind playing that kind of a character, but if I come back to Earth, go back home to my family, I don't feel comfortable role playing that character. Because then the wife and the kid, they're suspicious. I'm acting strange. I'm doing weird things. Maybe I'll harm my family. Because the alien doesn't know human life at all. So something like that, I would probably stay away from role playing. If I
Oh
have a
really?
family. But if I'm just some single, Steve Austin character, I would just keep going with it,
What is the barrier that you face there?
Well, I guess it would depend. The aliens they're planning an invasion on Earth, and they want to learn how humans think and solve problems and react to things, and they sent an alien to just take over a human to report back to the alien race if the humans are easy pickings or if we should stay away from Earth entirely. But I don't know. You got loved ones at home, and now you're going to be messing with them. Showing up to school to pick up the kid, and the kid's telling the police, "I'm not going in that car. That's not my dad. He's not my dad."
The invasion of the body snatcher. There are some trope in horror that are, I mean, they're there to stay. They're there to stay. It's just something familiar that you don't recognize as familiar is
Yep.
scary.
I think that's where the juice is. At least for me, that's something like familiar that or something unsettling, something that is
Yeah.
almost like something that you
If-
know.
If my kid was grown, he's like in his 20s, maybe it's okay. But a little kid, elementary school age, no.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's why.
Maybe that's it.
Mm.
So I always play the single dude in games.
Well, I mean, that's a challenge for you next time.
Shauna, you need to play like
The good
what
family.
about playing an housewife, Shauna? You should play an housewife.
Nope. Same old G
Family
gave me a half brother one time. In a
Yeah?
Are you
trivia
serious?
game.
Oh yeah, we I don't remember. What game?
But he got killed by one of the player characters.
Did you avenge him?
Oh, I think oh man, that's a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Oh, it's a long time.
I like that character. I like the vibe that me and him had. But we had a new player join in, and for whatever reason, he shot him. Shot him dead. And he says, "Well, that's my character. I thought he was going to attack me." So maybe I don't have family members, I guess, if they're going to die.
Yeah.
Because then for the rest of the game session, I'm just not in the mood after that sometimes.
Yeah. It's this hobby is, there's so many things we can talk about. The way these experiences make us feel. We talked about horror tonight. It's okay for a couple hour conversation, but let's talk about sometimes, maybe another day, about the idea of how a session make you feel.
Mhm.
We get into a session, we prep before. As a player or as a GM, it's not the same prep, but you're going to prep a little bit if you're serious about it. And then you get into it. 2 hour, 3 hour sessions, 4 hour max, sometimes it depends. And then you can have feelings that lingers hours after the session. If the session was good, you can have some feelings sometimes like, how do I feel right now? And sometimes it's about the character. So you feel the stuff that the character felt afterward lingers. And sometimes you feel about yourself as a player in that session. So you don't feel about the character. You feel like, was I talking too much? Was I putting my decision ahead of other player too much? Was I, and so that's post-session.
You take too long for your turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the post-session anxiety. Exactly. And that's
I had one
two different
lately.
things. It's two different things.
I had one lately about like I did this session, and I felt like, man, I felt like this character I didn't bring to life. He was like a cardboard cutout, right? Very dissatisfied with what I did. Like I didn't get to. I came in like sometimes I got stuff going in my life and stuff like that, and I get like in a bad mood, and I was like troubled, and I couldn't slip in that character's skin. And so it was just like, well, I was just like a puppet I would control from the outside, and that was unsatisfying for me.
That is very an important comment, because that's exactly what I was talking about. It's the idea that it lingers. It's some people have that same. I'm going to share something personal. In my work, sometimes there are a reunion where you have a lot of people together, and there's a reunion. When you have a reunion, a meeting, and it's a professional meeting, and it lasts for a couple hours, and you have to raise your hand and give your opinion, and then you get vote and stuff, and then you I hate it, and then you go back on, and after the meeting you're like, was I too much? Was I speaking too much? Was how my comments were? How do I look like a jerk? I was, it's the same with the RPG sometimes. In this hobby, it's kind of like the same. So people who are professional listening to this, who have meeting at work, and you have that post-meeting anxiety or pre-meeting anxiety, and then you have the same with this hobby. And if you are a GM who procrastinate and do not get the group together, or if you're a player who procrastinate, don't get together because of that anxiety, it's not gonna go away. It's always gonna be there. So you gotta get used to it. It's gonna be there. I don't know what to say about it. Personally, I think it's not gonna go anywhere. It's something about you. It's something that you have to get used. You have to get tougher skin and get into the session and man up kind of thing. I use
but it's also about getting like the hobby serious, taking the hobby seriously, right? And you want to, like,
there's a huge payoff afterwards.
There's a huge payoff afterward. Yeah, exactly. So you go into it.
We're not just casual gamers every Friday night rolling dice and telling jokes. Where there's nothing to worry about. We're not going to die in this game.
That's why for some people it gets anxious, especially for some people. Yeah, like you say, Shauna, if you think this hobby seriously enough that it's not casual, when you know the before the session is important, and the session in itself is important, and the after the session,
you want to have some motivations, you know.
Exactly, you know. And you want to perform it. There's a performative aspect as well. I don't know about you guys, but for me, if I get into a session with people, there's a performative aspect to it. It's not about I have to be good or I have to beat them or I have to win the game. It's not about that. It's about or neither
to enjoy.
In your Call of Cthulhu game.
I want to be part of enjoyment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you say, Shauna?
In your Runeslinger game, recently, you would say how your character stands or sits, walks, their posture, the expression on their face when they're saying something.
Mm-hmm.
You did all that.
Yeah.
Most people just say, I asked the barmaid, how much is mead? That's the extent of their role play. Mm-hmm. You'll say if you cross your legs or not.
Mm-hmm.
You'll say if your shoe's untied, or if you're smoking a cigarette, or if you're looking out the window at the rain.
Yeah.
Stuff
Those are
like
what
that.
we call those anchoring statements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most players don't do that.
And it's interesting because I do it. But I also look at a friend of mine, Ivan Mike, who stay in character all the time, but never does it, which is completely different. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, am I doing it too much? You know, because, you know, you can describe how you dress and how you cross your leg and how you look and how your eyebrows kind of do this and that.
You'll say how you tip your hat.
I tip your hat and all that. Yeah, I know.
Or how you put your coat. It's freezing outside, so you're like this outside. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, you're right. So how is it? How much? You know.
I think there can be such a thing as too much. Of those little things because
fine balance.
Like I said, like to be wary of turnflation, right? Like when
you have 30 seconds to do
when like it's like turn inflation, like when your turn gets longer and longer because you want to post description and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
because you want to also
it's a good idea. I never heard about it. It's a good idea.
Yeah, you want to keep your turn short too, right? But you want to have some of the description because it does create a lot for the collective visual, because now you're not just a floating head. You're a guy that AI'd his arm under his armpit to keep them warm, right?
No pregnant pauses either.
Well, I do them all the time, but that's just all. You're telling me, Shauna.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people think your turn's over.
Yeah.
But those are important things to consider. You know, as a player and as a GM, like where your turn, how long it is. What the part of it?
I say 30 seconds.
I do believe it's a good 30 seconds is long, man.
It's long.
That's the maximum. You don't have to.
Yeah. Look at your watch, and it's 30 seconds, very long. So I think it's a maximum. As a maximum is good. Yeah, definitely. 15 15 is
15 is good.
is very good. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
If you can describe a little bit of what you
I
look
mean,
like,
You can
and
say a lot of stuff in 15 seconds.
for years,
yeah.
for years, I've been telling players just say where you're at and what you're doing. But
Yeah.
during a session, you find a pattern where you don't have to constantly be saying where you're at and what you're doing.
I listened to some of your conversation with a guy. I don't remember his name. He's from Europe, from last conversation, and you guys talk about
Oh,
the player describing horrific stuff, and I was like, how can that be possible? How can a player be describing? The guy was talking about entering a bar, describing the waitress,
Yeah.
describing what the waitress was talking about and stuff. And I'm like, in 40, that is that is fine. That is
Yeah,
what
that's
40
fine.
is about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I'm like, how much of it is still interesting and still good? Because in horror, the player cannot go there. You know, how can you be 40 in horror to the point where the players who are supposed to live through that experience are describing the horrific experience? So they cannot.
Well, we always say that you in 4D you should be able to co-create the thing that is like more mundane, right?
Yeah,
So that's the thing. That's the ick there, right? You cannot 4D
the
something
horror.
like
Yeah.
oh the dragons arrive, right? Just like but
Yeah.
you can 4D like peanuts on the bar, right? Or you
Yeah,
can
and the waitress. You can 4D the waitress.
and yeah, the waitress, why not? There's gonna be
It's
a
not the end
waitress.
of the world. Yeah, yeah.
well,
Like
if
you
it's
come
So
into a
if
bar, I go to the bar and I whistle at the waitress. Like I look at her nice short red dress, right? And then you created somebody there. But
yeah,
there's gonna be somebody at the bar, and it doesn't really matter who it is. So why not? It can be that character.
I think it was the conversation about
I think
can a player role play an NPC at this point, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like once you can like conjure her, but then she's not yours to control.
a player can probably notice something about an NPC that wasn't described before.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
let's say the waitress is supernatural. That's all you know. They appeared in the room and there's supernatural something's off with this waitress. One of the players could mention when it's their turn that they notice one of her eyes is sewn shut.
Yeah, that would depend very
as he
much so on
asks
the
her for
for
a
me.
drink, but he doesn't. He's trying not to look at the eye, and he's just
Yeah.
trying to be polite about it.
Oh, Shana, you're going into weird territories.
For me that'd be very depending on the tone, and it's something that would need to be discussed on like because in some session that'd be fine. In some other session, like no, you're going too far, right? They depend on the tone and
Now
what we
it
describe in
becomes
social
player
context.
versus player, or character versus character if that's being made of other players. The
Yeah.
players are saying other things about each other's character.
Yeah, don't do that.
Unless it's been
Don't
agreed
do
on.
that.
Unless it's been agreed that, but then yeah, it just become like a tug of war. Yeah.
What'd you say?
It can
Become a tug of war. Oh, but your character got like an horn pushed like a growing out of his forehead.
Oh yeah, my character is a tiefling. I told you before. It's a tiefling.
Maybe
Maybe
the player
sometime.
the player's a hitman and another player's asking him about his gun and describing the gun before the player has a chance to describe what gun they have.
Yeah.
Oh là là, that's a nice dog. Ok, le chien veut de l'affection.
I don't know. Yeah. There you go.
Oh là là.
That's a monster.
You can say hi.
Oh, he's
Oh, he's a
big.
big dog.
He's an average
Huge.
dog. He's average big.
It's a
I would say
horse.
average big. Yeah.
He's 85 pounds. So he's
Oh,
not too small. Yeah. Doesn't look
Is that
so big next
Labrador?
to me because I'm quite big as myself. No.
C'est un mâle ou une femelle?
Male.
Mâle,
He's a
ouais,
male.
c'est
Yeah.
It's a male. Yeah.
He's an intact male. If you want to know all the details.
Intact! Oh là
Yeah.
là! Oh là
Yeah,
là!
that's why he's so muscular. Yeah.
surrounded by cats.
Surrounded by
cats,
cats.
and one of the
Exactly.
cats is bullying him. He's not even the boss of the house. But yeah,
Oh
no,
my
he's not a
god.
Labrador. He's what they call a pot cake. They're like those feral dog from the Caribbean.
So now we know that the boss of the house is a cat.
Yeah, yeah. One of my tomcat. I have two tomcats, which is don't do it. That's a bad idea.
Monsieur Max Boivin, t'es même pas le maître chez toi.
Oh yeah. I'm too soft for that. When it comes to the cats, I'm too soft. You can walk all over me.
Oh, là, là.
Yeah.
Oh man. Hey guys, that was a nice conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was. I just want like I was doing the wrap up and stuff like that, and then we were starting talking about something else. But like Sean, do you have any final thought on the horror thing?
Nope. I'm waiting
No?
for the next live stream we do on horror session.
horror,
We're probably gonna review
horror in RPG is a bitch. That's all
Yeah.
I have to say.
Like I said, like
Very hard.
I want to run for the guys like a game that has some horror element to it. I guess there kind of was a bit in the Witch game as well.
Well, you want
but
your
it wasn't.
characters to have a secret that they don't tell anyone else.
Mhm.
And maybe it gets revealed about them later
maybe
on
not.
in the game.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But it's after the session you can all say what your secrets were from each
You know
other.
what we missed today is character death, PC death. PC death.
Well, that's a whole other subject.
Oh yeah, it's a whole other topic.
Whole
But
other
it's
subject.
I do think it's important for horror.
Yeah.
If PC death is lingering somewhere in the back, like it's and if we can describe the death, so the PC not describing his own death, that can be nasty.
You see, that's like we come to this on a topic because that's something I want to talk about because that's something I'm like
PC death.
I want to PC that, but also like having PCs or like players understand that their character are not gonna win every encounter that they're not gonna win every fight that they pick, right? And sometimes there's some fight they shouldn't pick. Like that's something in the last game I run with the guys. I try very hard to have them understand. Do not fight those guys, but they still wanted to fight the guys, and then they died. They lost, right? Basically. Like guys, you're outnumbered. You know the system
It's
is
fun.
deadly. You know that, but like they say, like no, we're not. Like they ask like it's a bunch of guys. Like they decide they have a child with them that they don't really know, but decide they want to take him to his uncle. And then, but the guys say like, no, give us a child. We'll take him to the uncle. And they say, well, don't trust them. I say like, they're like 4-month guy on the horse. You're you're tired and stuff like that. And I try very hard like to make them understand, and I get the like through the character action and stuff like that. But they still wanted to take it to blow, right? But that's something I like. Sometimes as a GM, I would put a solution for in front of you that you probably should run away from it. And I want to see that, right? A fight that maybe you should just try to talk your way out of that. Maybe it's time to comply. The bandit ask you for your money, just give them your fucking money. Don't try to fight everything, right?
Of course, okay, no problem. But what about Max? Oh man, we gotta keep talking all the time. But okay, so what about having Sunday night, another one of those, about character death and GM intentions?
This Sunday night, do you have something? I think I have like, let's put a pin on that
Tomorrow night.
because I think I have something on Sunday night.
Tomorrow
But I
night.
think
Tomorrow night.
tomorrow night I can. But I think the Sunday night that I had a pin on was actually this talk that we had tonight in the end. So I'll have to check. But my Sunday night might be free actually. I have something Friday. I'm talking with Army Ginger. So
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. About the woman in RPG and everything.
No, we're talking about the because
One-to-one.
she do the 1-to-1 time, and she do like this. She's much more like a role playing game or war game kind of crowd, right? So we're gonna talk about that and try
Actions,
to
domain play.
figure it out.
That's cool. That's cool, man. That's
Yeah.
cool. But if you're free on Sunday or whatever, PC death
Yeah.
would be nice of a topic.
Yeah,
PC
PC
death,
death.
PC
Like
death is a cool topic, man. So
I want to talk about PC death, and also, but also I want to wrap it up with threat that you should like, how to communicate to your player, like, to your like this is something you shouldn't fight with, right? Or how to create
all right,
situation
yeah,
where like
yeah.
PC like basically what I want, like PC loss. Would that loss be dead, or would that loss be taking an L? Like basically, like the PC
Yeah,
is taking an L.
and
Choose
how to
that or
communicate
choose.
it as a GM as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like
That's
I like
hard.
that.
That's hard.
That's a good. Yeah, because like and player have been trained to that, right? Oh, if there's a challenge that are presented to us, we can fight it, we can win, right? Oh, if it's fair, we should be able to win. I say, well, life is not fair, and my game is not going to be fair. So it's going to be fair in the
Yeah,
sense that
and the idea that should they know in
yeah,
advance that they are about to die on die roll, because it's always come down to one die
yeah.
roll.
Let's make that up for provisionally Sunday, but I'll confirm. As for the hour thing, for the wrap up, the for the wrap up, I would just say that. Yeah, say like for me, like the juice is like I said, I did a semi wrap up before, but I would say like that, like try to aim at use horror as a tone, not a genre. So you don't do a horror game, you do a game with horror element in it. You want to have you want to use it with parsimony because it loses its pregnancy very fast. Is that a word? Can I say that?
Potency.
Potency. It uses potency very fast, and aim for don't rely on pre-written box text. Aim for the uncanny more than the gore.
The
That'd be my
silences that
yes.
let the player
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah. We say in music, we say like breaks or notes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, those would be like the big takeaway that I would have now. Like, so I think it was a very interesting conversation. I hope like it was useful for people watching. It was useful for me for sure. That's why we do those talk, right? We're trying to figure stuff out. We decorticate, we tear the skin off, and we look inside, and we try to find some flesh. And I think we
Yeah,
did find some tonight.
it was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you, Shauner, for joining me again,
Yeah, thanks, Shaman.
and thank you, Simul G, for
No problem.
joining me for your first time on Tear Off Your Skin. It wasn't too
First
painful.
time, not the last. Not the last.
Yeah, no, we'll talk again. It was very fun.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and thank you for people that watch and chat live. You always have like good comments there, and thank you for people that are gonna watch on the replay. And you can also leave us a comment down there in the comment section if you make it all the way to the end. But fucking YouTube's work. And I'll be back on Friday with Armored Ginger, and potentially again on Sunday. That's gonna be like a very tear off your skin rich week. So take care. Have a good night. Bye.